Dink. Like those are $30 each. I got the iPhones for $200 refurbed on Amazon.
Wow.
Like
those are kind lights to our aging faces.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's why I always wear sunglasses too, so nobody can see my aging eyes.
Sorry. But when I first started talking to people about how to do the video portion of this, people are like, oh, you got to get a DSLR camera or multiple. And then, you know, those are thousands of dollars each. And then there's these giant files. So you need all these external hard drives and all this stuff. And
right.
I was just not in a position to do any of it.
Yep.
And this solution works perfectly fine. Workflow's super easy.
Yeah.
The cameras work great.
Nice.
You know? Like there's no need to do anything more extravagant. All right, Chess Smith, we're back.
What a day.
I can't hear your mic. What's going on?
Can you not hear me?
No, I can't.
Check.
Oh,
Should I be pulling
there,
mine in too, or
there it
is
goes.
it good out here?
Get
it closer?
That's good. Right there's good. I had your volume turned down for some. All right, Chaz, welcome back. It's The Grit. It is February 17th, 2022.
I hope the listeners heard a little extra voice in there and thought, what is this? What beholds us today?
And whose voice might that be? It's like they should be able to identify it.
I mean, our guest should say a few more words, and our listeners in the car can play a wonderful guessing game.
Hold on. Time out. Something's up.
I like how loose you guys run the show around here. No, it's good. It's good. It's how it should be.
It became unsaid.
Yep. Oh, when I pulled it?
Check your connection.
Check.
You got a mixing board in it. This is like we're recording a record in here.
Hold on.
Check.
That's
Check.
That's much better.
Check.
Oh, we got the voice too back.
Now the voice is back.
Check. I got an extra shot of espresso in my coffee this morning.
Perfect.
Is it a red eye?
It's a red eye, exactly. Knowing that I was coming in here, I just figured I got to be on.
Have you ever ordered a black eye?
No.
Black eyes are two extra shots.
Wow.
Yeah, in the coffee.
Red eyes, black eyes.
Yep.
Not to name drop, but I recorded with Mark Cunningham this past week.
Ooh.
And I asked him for his coffee order on the way, and he goes, it's a red eye. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. I'm
You've
just
never
going to
heard
tell
of a
the
red eye?
barista. No.
What?
I know.
Do you know what a cortada is?
No.
I do.
Yeah.
Smaller, that's a Spanish one, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Basically.
smaller coffee, yeah.
Smaller.
With milk, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. It's like a smaller cappuccino, a less milky cappuccino.
Yes. The cappuccino with a lot of milk, and then I've gone on to the oat milk.
Yep.
So now when I have the dairy, it really does the number to my stomach, and when I have like that much milk in a
Too much.
cappuccino or whatever, yeah.
A little oat milk cortada is the wife's coffee order.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten into the Laird creamers. I mix the cacao and the turmeric every morning.
Does it enhance your health?
Good question. I mean, it tastes awfully good. I think it enhances my health. At the very least, it does a placebo number on me, and I'll drop and do some push-ups and,
Oh, perfect.
feel strong.
I could tell when you walked in.
Jump into an ice bath. And if you haven't guessed yet, ladies and gentlemen, in studio today, the iconic Jamie Brisick.
The one and only.
Thank you guys for talking me up like this.
You kidding? Thanks for swinging in.
It doesn't feel like that most of the time, quite frankly.
What are you doing in Southern California, in lower Southern California?
Well, I came down to see you guys actually. Fantastic. And I was we're at Album Surfboards on El Camino, and I got up early hoping to go swimming in the Ole Hansen swimming pool, which I used to lap swim at. I worked at Surfing Magazine up the hill. And at lunch, I'd come down and swim like, 3/4 of a mile, something like that, swim for 40 minutes or so. But they weren't open yet. So instead,
what time are they open? What kind of pool is not open for early morning swimmers?
I know, they open at 10.
That is just rude.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to get your laps in?
I felt that way too.
Swimming laps is do you ever swim laps, David Lee?
Never.
Is one of life's greatest pleasures.
I agree.
I would throw a lap pool, one of those just strips in my backyard if I could.
And I often think about that. If you had that and you did it every morning, your health and your sort of mood would be lifted so much.
You might live forever.
You might.
Think of all the simple things you can employ with that exact mentality. 20 push-ups a day, let's say 50 sit-ups and 10 chin-ups. If you did that every day, it would take you less than 10 minutes. Imagine what your physique would look like.
Yeah. Well, and there's also I think there are some neurotransmitters that burst. I was once in a low place in my life, and I was talking to a dear friend who's extremely physically fit, and he's like, dude, here's what you do. And we were at Malibu on the first point on the sidewalk along all the parked cars, and he dropped and he did 10 push-ups so quick and just hopped up and he goes, it'll change everything in your brain. Wow. And so now I kind of do that sometimes.
That's pretty great.
So,
yeah.
You know what you could have done this morning is jumped in the ocean.
I thought about that too.
Here's the trouble about ocean swimming, I think, is what's beautiful in lap swimming in a pool is finding that rhythm where you're just like, it's all the breath and stuff. Your head is out, all that.
Yeah.
In the ocean, I'm perpetually catching chops in the mouth and then just like where I can never find ocean swimming rhythm.
I think it's even better for you for those reasons.
But it's like, there's something about the wonderful thing about lap swimming for me is like, once you hit like the first mile or second mile where it just becomes like just this rhythm, like it's not necessarily that, I mean, at those times I feel like I could swim forever, right? Where you just keep going. I'm not racing. I'm not on a crazy pace. It's just this rhythmic. Yeah. It feels so good.
No, and there's a kind of meditative thing, and then you're kind of, you get like in tune with when you have to do your flip turn, or sometimes I just do the casual turnaround.
Yep.
But you know that there's no sharks eyeing you from below. Yep. You know that there's not like a big set that's going to come and break on top of you and roll you over.
You're not going to swim accidentally right into a surfer.
Yep.
Speaking of Laird, did you see that in this past year he lost $30 million of wealth?
I heard that actually. I didn't read the piece, but someone had mentioned that.
We talked about it on the podcast last week. I thought maybe you were listening in.
Huh? No, I didn't. I maybe someone heard it and told me, but someone mentioned that. That's a lot of money.
It was just in stock value essentially, like that Laird Superfoods when it went public. I think it started out at like $35 a share. Skyrocketed to 50, but now it's down to 6.
Jeez.
Yep.
So
wow.
It's getting, but you're doing your part to support him, so that's good.
Jamie Brisick is buoying Laird Hamilton.
Without Jamie's contributions, it could be below 6.
Yeah. Can I give you one last thing on the swim stuff?
Heck yeah.
I actually do like ocean swimming in still places, and there's a part of Malibu in Point Dume where I go for these long ocean swims in the summer months when it's warm. And so one day I was swimming around, and I was kind of coming in like from the sea because I kind of swam way out into a little break of a cluster of about 6 surfers sitting on this little reef. And as I swam up to them, it suddenly hit me, and I came up, peeled up my goggles, and I went, hey, is that Ventura? And they're like, no, dude, this is Malibu. And I'm like, oh. And then they all started talking among themselves, and they're like, where are you coming from? And I was like, and I go, I was out on the Channel Islands. The boat went down. I've been swimming a long time. And they're like, oh, fuck, man. No, this is Malibu. But it was so, I felt like I gave a little something to their day.
You completely did. You gave something to their day and to their spouses or friends' day. Like, I'm sure that you guys wouldn't believe what happened today.
Yes.
That's pretty good.
That's incredible.
I just read a story this morning on that same note about a dude who was out urchin diving off Santa Barbara, fell out of his boat, but apparently didn't have any kind of kill switch on it. So his boat's,
oh wow.
This is night. So he tries to swim for his boat and realize it's getting further and further away. He's out in just a t-shirt and shorts or whatever, thinking about, this is it, real bummed. I just went and died, like, what am I going to do? Wife's going to, no husband, 2 kids, grow up without a father, thinking about all this stuff. And then he, figured, okay, I'm going to try to swim toward this, the oil rig or whatever, instead of land. It was closer. So he started making his way, getting tired. Lo and behold, a sea lion, he says, comes up behind him and helps push him to the oil rig.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. He said he heard it. He said he hadn't thought about sharks. Then he heard a splash and thought, oh no. Then a sea lion pops up and starts pushing him.
Wow, that's impressive.
Did you ever see that Instagram video where the girl drops her iPhone? They're off a boat shooting video. I think it's a beluga whale. Drops the phone. You watch the phone sink. The beluga goes down below it, grabs it with its mouth, and retrieves it and brings it back to her.
No kidding.
It's on video.
These beautiful ocean animals.
Yeah.
They don't want littering.
No.
They don't want you dying out
They don't,
there.
yeah. Littering with your body.
So you asked Jamie why he's here. You know why he was invited to join us?
Why?
He has just entered the realm of podcasting. Not as a guest.
As a host.
As a profession.
That is fantastic.
As a profession.
I've jumped in the casting ranks.
You have.
The casting.
Welcome.
We're casters.
The water is warm.
How proud, David Lee, are you when somebody as renowned as August, as Jamie Brisick, enters your world?
I feel like I'm the one who initially welcomed him in years ago.
You did.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I am grateful as well. Years ago. I mean, for so many years of doing this, I would reach out to people and say, hey, would you want to be on the podcast? And their first response is, what's a podcast? Right. And I feel like that's kind of where we started too. You were kind of like, I have an awareness of it, but yeah, I'm down, whatever, you know, and then the feedback that you hear from it after the fact. Yes. I don't want to speak for you, but you're like, wow, there's actually people who listen, and people then come up to you in the water or wherever and say that was really good. Yeah. And it's I don't know, like the medium itself just allows for discourse without any editing. You can go long, you know, and it's for just sure. different than anything else provides. And so,
no, I absolutely agree. And I find myself, I think when we did that way back when, I was yet to be a listener, and now I'm a regular listener. And, you know, I drove from LA to San Clemente today at sort of traffic hour, and I wasn't worried about it because I knew I could listen to stuff.
Yeah.
What are your top three for the listeners?
You know, I listen to a lot of Tara Brach, who's a Tibetan Buddhist, and it just sort of keeps my head in check. And then I listen to the Huberman Lab, which is really interesting. I listen to Mark Maron. I've yet to really... I've been kind of watching from afar with the Joe Rogan controversy, but I've listened to his podcast and enjoyed them. Mm-hmm. But I don't really have a strong stance yet as to what I think of all that. What about you guys with the favorite podcasts? Surf Splendor.
Well, thanks. I don't. The funny thing is, I don't listen to any surfing. I do. So
I don't
much.
Either, to be honest.
Yeah.
I hate to admit it.
Yeah.
I don't mind admitting it. The reason I got into podcasting was because I was listening to podcasts, and there was none that existed about surfing. Right.
Yep.
This American Life.
Yeah.
That was one of the originals.
Yeah.
So I listened to that that was kind of the inspiration for why I started doing what I was doing, even though mine's very different in format.
Yeah.
That was kind of the initial inspiration.
Yep.
Because it was just these real, simple, well-told stories.
Yep.
You know, there was no crazy editing. There was no, sensationalizing or anything like that. It was just real simple, basic stuff.
Right.
That it had like an intimacy that other platforms kind of miss.
Yep.
And so that was an original one. The Moth was another original one that I liked. I still listen to both those a bit, but not weekly.
Yeah.
I've gotten into a lot of true crime in the last years.
Yeah.
So we've talked about S-Town is one of the great true crime ones.
Yep.
Serial, stuff like that.
Yep. What about you, Chad?
I don't listen to podcasts, to be honest, but often or rarely do I. But Red Scare is pretty funny. Have you heard Red Scare? That's funny from time to time. It's just like I think they're New York women who just have the most like deadpan voices, but do like such a funny riff on politics and culture. Like really, I mean, if we spoke of those things, it would be straight cancelables. I don't know how it's edgy in that way, like really poking the cultural bear.
What does the title come from?
Red Scare. I think one of them's Russian, one of them's Russian and something. Yeah.
Well, Jamie, tell us about your entry into podcasting. What are you doing? Who are you doing it for?
Surfer's Journal. The title of the series is Soundings. And as of now, we're just doing interviews. So it's finding interesting guests and having conversations. I've been writing for the Surfer's Journal since 1992. So I think it fits really well. And I think I kind of understand the ethos and the aesthetic and the style. And a lot of the people I've already, the longtime friends. I mean, the interesting thing is that 8 guests in season 1 that comes out real soon. It actually dropped for subscribers yesterday, and it drops on the 27th for everyone else. Pretty much everyone I've had like a long-standing relationship with. So there's a little bit of there's a chumminess, you might call it. Like there's a sense of like, oh, I remember that time in 2006 we were sitting out at sunset chatting about this, and so there's like there's a real casualness to them.
Did you pitch the idea to the Surfer's Journal, or did they reach out to you?
We'd been going back and forth about the idea for a long time. I actually I wish I would have done it sooner, quite frankly. Just because now that I'm into it, it's really fun. And I've been a journalist for so many years now. And so often I have a tiny, shitty little voice recorder that doesn't have any quality, but I I'm so used to interviewing people, and I'm used to asking the types of questions that we do when we're doing that. And I bring that into my personal life as well, where I sometimes will sit down with people and it's almost like I'm interrogating them on some level.
I get busted for that all the time.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
People don't like it.
Yeah.
Or
But
my wife does.
no, it's a strange thing, but I will say this. When I really think about what that's about, it's being genuinely curious about people. Like I have, and that's why I got into this, is like I want to kind of forget myself and step into someone else's world and sort of feel my way around, you know? And so it doesn't feel like having done tons of Q&As, written hundreds of profiles, it doesn't feel like some great leap away from that. To some degree, it actually feels easier just because in the past, it's been sit down with someone for an hour and then go transcribe this thing and then go find a shape or edit. If it's a Q&A, you edit that down to make it as smooth and as conversational as possible and, you know, get rid of the fluff. Or if it's a profile, as you know, like you're looking for the pithy quotes and all that kind of stuff and you're trying to get the essence of it. But the idea of like, it's almost like, I guess what it would, I was thinking about it with regards to musicians. It's like, if you're musicians, you like come up with a song, you rehearse the song, you practice the song, you find the song, you might go record the song, and there's all this work. And then finally the song is live and you go play it. The podcast feels like that live playing of something. It's sort of like whatever happens in this moment, as we're doing right now, is what the thing is. And so if there are flubs, if there's throat clearing, if the audio goes out, I kind of like the idea of like peeling back the curtain. And it's interesting because I've been thinking, you know, there's a part of me that coming from journalism, there's a sense of like, oh, it's got to be kind of slick and things should be, you don't want to waste, you've got only so much word count, right? Typically, if I were writing a Q&A, it's like, oh, I've got 1,000 words to write this thing. Okay, you get a transcription back or you transcribe it yourself with 4,000 words. Okay, what are the best 1,000 words in here? The podcast can be sprawling and you can do things like, at the end of a podcast, I've been able to go like, so is there anything else that you'd like to talk about that we haven't hit on? And on the page, that might read like, this is kind of sloppy and not edited and not as tight as it could be. But in podcast world, it seems perfectly okay.
And it might get to the most important part.
Yes.
In fact.
No, for sure that happens.
It's savvy that you identified all that. For the first couple of years, I was editing too much. And even if there was gaps in somebody, like if somebody pauses, I would edit that gap out because my mentality was that's dead air.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
It's actually, sometimes that silence means something.
Yes.
You know, and so now I almost leave everything in as a whole piece without editing. I hardly edit.
Yeah.
Do you know what he especially likes to leave in? When I say that vitamin D cures COVID.
One of our sponsors gives you a vitamin D dropper. And they specifically say in their ad copy that they send us, here's are the do's, here are the don'ts. Do not say about any, that it affects COVID in any way.
Wow.
And so every show he tries to drop that in so that I have to edit it out.
Spotify would love you right now.
Jeez. Yeah, exactly.
No, but the other thing I find is because I do listen to a lot of them, there's almost like there's different types of listening. There's times when I'm driving in traffic and I'm edgy and caffeinated and I don't want to waste time. And then there's times late at night or even in the middle of the night when I can't sleep where I really like those pauses. And I almost enter into like a kind of a trancy place where you're sort of the like cadence and rhythm is actually part of the whole thing, and the pauses can be really, really nice. It's like you're observing human conversation and thought processes as they come. You know?
And for me, it's more this particular guest, that is their cadence, that is the way they speak. I should not be trying to edit them all to sound the same.
Yeah.
Let that person be themselves.
Yep.
The listener might like it, they might not like it. That's not up to me to decide.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
So who's the guest list for season 1 and why did you choose them?
Sure. So season 1, Steph Gilmore, Tony Alva, Thad Zilkowski, Emmy Erickson, Dane Reynolds, Dave Parmenter, Laird Hamilton, Mike D.
Phenomenal.
A-list.
I mean, that is one of the, that's a finely curated guest list too.
Yes.
I like
it's got range.
I mean,
broad.
completely.
Well, the thing that's interesting, and this comes from the Surface Journal, is they had the idea of let's do it do a season, right? So it's like this 8. And having been an editor of surf magazines and various magazines for many, many years, there's that thing of it's almost like serving a meal. It's like you don't want to do 2 carbs or 2 proteins or whatever. You want to like round the thing out. So there's sort of like, okay, well, what does Dane Reynolds he represents a certain sort of new explosive hardcore, and then his personality, there's almost a little bit of I'm away from the scene, I'm not playing the normal games. Then you've got Laird, and Laird in a similar way, but more in the big wave realm, and then there's this athleticism there, so I was really curious to sort of pick his brain, quite honestly. Mike D being, a musician primarily, so I was so curious about like Beastie Boys playing massive shows. What does that feel like? That thing that I'm always curious about, and we just watched it with the Pipeline Masters with Kelly Slater, when like someone's performing at a high level with a lot of people present, that buzz, what that feels like, coming down from that stuff, and Mike talked about that really well. Tony Alva's been my hero, since I was like 12 years old, and so it was great to talk to him, and Steph Gilmore, I surf with her in Malibu all the time. She's a good friend, and I'm fascinated by her and how like she operates at such a high level. Thad Zilkowski is a friend of mine. He's a mentor of mine. He's taught me a lot about writing. He wrote a book called The Drop about surfing and addiction. I think you guys know about.
Mm-hmm. I interviewed him too about that.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, I mean, I think it was all these people I was really genuinely interested in and had questions that I would probably ask them if I were riding in the car with them anyway. And it was sort of like having them all balance one another. So you get like the various colors of the rainbows, if you will.
And all 8 are already completed?
Yes. Yep.
And you said that Surfer's Journal already released one. Are they available on every podcasting app, or do you have to go to the website?
No, so what it is the first, I believe it's 10 days, it's exclusive to subscribers. It's sort of because Surfer's Journal is subscriber based. That's their main source. So the idea is let's honor those subscribers, the folks who have been supporting us, give them the first hit. They get all 8 at once. So there's like a binge, the potential to binge them all in one hit. And then starting on the 27th, it'll drop one at a time. So 1 week at a time.
So right now, only available on their website?
Yeah, only available to subscribers on the website. And then the 27th, it hits all the other platforms, of which I'm just learning about now.
Spotify, Apple.
Worth a subscription right there alone if you are not subscribed to Surfer's Journal. I mean, it's a great, obviously, product to begin with, but value added right here.
100%. Yep. And do it just for the sake of supporting these types of things. I mean, the Surfer's Journal is doing incredible work. They've been doing incredible work for a long time. Even if you're not going to read the magazine, throw them the subscription just to support it.
Yeah, I feel that way too. At Christmas time, I get Christmas presents from my friends, and I get them subscriptions to the journal.
It's so smart.
Yep.
And
I believe it's the last print surf publication in the USA at this point.
I think it is.
That's insane.
I know.
I'm, by the way, distributing Surfing World for Sean Doherty in the U.S. So
cool.
You can buy that on surfsplendorpodcast.com.
Oh, good. And Surfing World is so great.
So great.
So great.
Now the longest running.
Wow.
Since Surfer's gone. 50 years nonstop production.
Wow. I read it as a kid.
Did you?
And it transported me to Australia.
Yeah.
And I started listening to all these Australian bands, and I started speaking with an Aussie accent.
No way.
Yeah.
Tapping the Aussie thing early. I mean, I was right there. Like, it just seems, it was so hard to get and so hard to find any kind of Australian magazine, but man.
Yeah.
It hit different, as they say, as the kids say.
So we're going to get into the show, Jamie. Some of this is kind of structured as it normally is, so you could just chime in on our normal structure.
Sure.
Feedback from last week.
Let me hear.
There's 3 warrants for arrest for Chaz Smith in San Diego County.
True?
I'm sorry, Charlie Smith. So during COVID, he got ticketed for a couple of different things. Eating outside was one of them. Yeah. Riding a bicycle outside was another one of them. Whoa. So last week, a listener called in. We have a listener line. They called in and they're like, hey, I'm just curious, what happened with those warrants? Are they still out there? Did Chaz pay a fine or whatever? We didn't know because Chaz doesn't check up on that sort of stuff. A listener went on the website and searched Charles Smith. And there's 3 arrest warrants.
Are they all me?
None of them are you, I don't think. So only one of whom is a Caucasian.
Yeah.
And that it had that person's date, and they were born in 1989.
Not me.
So not you. Looks like you've...
Dodging bullets. Wow. Dodging COVID bullets.
Left and right.
Yeah.
Another listener asked for feedback about giving advice to their partner who surfs.
Did you get this too?
Yeah.
Great.
So we said that you should never give your partner advice. If you have a partner who surfs, do not give them advice. It's probably just bad for the relationship. Even if they're gonna find themselves in peril, just let them figure it out on their own, unless they ask, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So this is a now third person. This person was not the original question, but they're just chiming in, and they said, my response in regards to giving your partner surf advice, I have countless personal experiences with this, and I can tell you it is a nah every time. The wife has never heeded any of my advice, even when it is solicited, and it has only ever put a sour tone to our sessions together. It's taken me 15 years, but I now know, just bite my tongue, even when she's being swept out to sea, or she's a kilometer down the beach, or when she is sitting so far out that she would be safe from a third reef bomb. Also, when we get home and she expresses her annoyance at not getting any waves that day, I have to usually casually dodge the conversation, even though "and I told you so" would have been acceptable. It only ever leads to hours of silence and cold shoulders. Big nah, boys. Keep your mouth shut and let them figure it out for themselves.
I have more on this one too, though.
Okay.
A response to the person who asked the original question. Chaz, hello. I am in fact Taylor's boyfriend.
No way.
Great.
The date was Friday.
It was the female that reached out to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's right.
The date was Friday, the 11th of February. We were on our way to a surf when, to my surprise, a question was rendered on Barrel or Nah by way of Venmo Creative. Yes, true? Not entirely. I had a feeling the culprit was sitting right next to me. Turns out I was correct. The issue at hand has been mightily misconstrued. Surf tips on technique? No, I say. The incident in question is a result of my partner being stuck inside continuously on a medium-sized day here in the Algarve, resulting in constant paddling in and back out as a result to show the way. So, if you'd be so kind as to allow me a retort, Barrel or Nah, paddling out when you can't do it alone.
So they're having a fight via us on air.
Mightily misconstrued is a wonderful turn of phrase.
I mean, I had to read
good.
I don't mean to out, but the whole thing was so well written.
Yeah,
I had to read it.
Yeah.
To everyone. So yeah, I mean, we usually hit Barrel or Nah at the end. We can save this one for the end. Should we save it?
Sure, save it.
Okay. Barrel or Nah.
Remind me later.
Barrel or Nah, paddling out when you can't do it alone.
So I think we've all agreed, don't give advice to your surf partner.
Yeah.
Or to your partner who surfs. Have you ever dated anybody who surfed?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you surf together? How did that go?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've taught a girlfriend to surf.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's gone well.
Okay.
I've never had the problems, but I certainly know guys who subscribe to the idea that if the girlfriend wants, and sounds so sexist because there are instances where the girl is a great surfer and the boyfriend is just learning the surfing, and I've seen that one in motion recently, but I would say more often than not, in the history of my life at least, it's the guy who's surfed a while and the new girlfriend would say wants to surf, what have you. But it's always gone fine for me. But I know people who are like, if my girlfriend decides she wants to surf, I'm going to hire a surf instructor so that I don't bring that complication back home with me.
Totally.
And that kind of poking and hitting, triggering, I guess you might say it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anything more soothing, though, honestly, than being taught to surf by Jamie Brisick. He has a very comforting way about him.
We could go surfing after this.
I mean, I would love tips.
I could push you into a wave, Chaz.
I would love every minute of it.
There's some
I actually
album
need
soft tops right
Yeah,
there.
no, we could go out together. It'd be great. I'm going to pick a wetsuit for you.
Perfect. Perfect.
So do you have any preference? Would you like to have a partner who surfs with you? Because I could see it going two ways. Wonderful thing to share together, or great to have things where you have your own space.
I completely agree, and I think both are good. It's sort of depending upon the day. Generally speaking, I mean, it sort of depends on the relationship. If it were a relationship and the time of your life, right? Like, to my mind, surfing is the place I escape everything, and I surf alone a lot. In fact, often I don't. I prefer to go surfing by myself. But to have something that you love so much and share it with someone is pretty cool too.
Yeah. I have only dated one girl who actually surfed, and she surfed long before we met, so she actually was pretty competent. But we were also early days of dating, so it wasn't every session that was together. You know, it was kind of like once a week when we'd see each other, then we would go surfing together. And so I got plenty of sessions on my own to have the reprieve. But I got to say, there was one day we surfed that was pretty big and pretty good. And I saw her get the wave. It had to be the wave of her life.
Yeah.
Like I got this long right and I kicked out and she was out the back paddling into the next one. And I watched her ride the thing flawlessly.
Yeah.
And I felt so much joy for her.
No, that is,
I was like,
that's beautiful.
and I told her, I'm like, that's gotta be the best wave of your life. And she was very modest about it. She's like, yeah, that was fun. And I'm like, no, I'm so thrilled for you. You know, it was a really cool thing.
No, I relate to that too. And I am not a father, but that thing of seeing your partner have this moment and it's not you, you're just standing, you've maybe pushed them into the wave and you're watching them get a ride.
Totally.
And you're seeing it all come together and they're maybe angling and they're skating along and it's like, that's a nice thing.
I had forgotten about the wave I just caught and it was a great wave.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about it because I was now more interested in that.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
What if your Lauren said, you know, David Lee, been listening. I mean, I don't listen to the podcast, but I know you talk about surf. It's time for me to take this on.
Hire Jamie Brisick. Jamie's going to be teaching Lauren how to surf. Be like, see you guys later. I'm paddling out. So on the flip side of this, the aforementioned Dave Parmenter.
Yes.
I was surfing with him right before COVID started and riding one of those PSV boards. Have you seen those PSVs that he make? Paddle surf vehicles?
I haven't actually.
They're like 12 feet long.
Okay.
So they're kind of built like a paddle board, but with a couple of contours and rails and edges that allow you to surf them. So we're surfing this kind of outside balmy wave that would connect to an inside reef. He got a mile-long ride on one of them, like that type of...
Wow.
And I haven't ridden that board a ton, so it's kind of new. He's been riding them for years, so it's kind of a new experience to me. But he was paddling out, and he had told me how to position, where to position, kind of what to do. And I got a wave that was like kind of a steep drop, and it required every ounce of talent that I had and ability. And I stuck the drop. And as I was bottom turning, I could see him on the shoulder going, yes, like actually fist pumping, sitting up, like, yes, like you, because he was watching intently to see how I was going to do it. You know, he was engaged, you know?
Wow.
And him doing that, greatest feeling I've had in surfing in a long time.
Yeah, that sounds
just
really
having
cool.
him cheer, you know, not audibly, but just enjoy that I did it.
He's incredible. That sounds so nice. It almost sounds like almost like a foiling type of thing. I wish we had more waves that were conducive to that. Like,
I know.
for instance, at Doheny here, nearby here, you can do it. And then there are reefs in San Diego that offer that. But I don't know a lot of those, and there are a lot of them in Hawaii where there's like, it breaks way out and it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. And that type of board would be so perfect, you know?
Outside kind of like balmy, but then it would go in, the whitewash would dissipate, but it's still a swell.
Yeah, and you're moving along, right.
So you move along and then it hits the inside reef, but it might go left at that point or right. So having to read all that. But he lived in the Central Coast for all those years.
Yep.
And hush, hush, Central Coast has waves like that.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah.
So.
Yep.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
No, of course not. So also listener feedback. Some listener pitched an idea that we need to have a podcasters surf off. So I do another podcast with Scott Bass. He surfs great.
Yeah, he surfs really good.
Now that you're in the podcast world, you're going to take the win probably.
Easy.
How about that?
But this guy...
Last time I surfed with Scott Bass was at the Kelly Slater Surf Ranch, and Scott was tearing it up.
I feel like, I was going to say he took the win that day, but Mikey Ciamarella was there.
Oh, yeah. He was really
Sam
good.
McIntosh was there. He surfed good.
Yep.
So listener follow-up. Hey, Chaz and David, I'm a longtime listener and new subscriber.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Jamie, did you know that you can subscribe to our show and support it for $5 a month?
Oh, good.
Way cheaper than the Surfer's Journal.
Nice.
Way cheaper. And you support independent surf media.
You do.
Yeah.
Dang.
You just don't get a cool magazine.
Nope. Anyways, he said, I wanted to weigh in on the contest to end all contests between Scott, David, and Chaz. This is a spectacular idea, especially with the team format. We were saying we should also include listeners into it, make a team format, you know, include one pro on the team, whatever. He said, upon hearing the plans of this whole event, a giant red flag was immediately raised. Furthermore, I'm astounded this error was not caught and corrected by the first utterance of the idea. With all the crap you guys talk about Ron from Board Porn's Backside 360.
It's true.
Chaz, I'm looking at you. How could there not be an invitee to the surf journalism / documentarian community? Furthermore, so Ron would get invited.
Of course.
Furthermore, I propose Ben Gravy be added to the team for proper East Coast smack talk representation. As I stated, I am a new subscriber, but I would like my $5 monthly to be set aside to cover Ron's travel expenses to the contest. I'm no accountant, but it seems like this is a win-win. You guys foot the bill up front, and then I will fork out the dough each month, and it should be paid off in at least 10 years. Thank you for what you do, from bringing us in-depth discussion with board builders to crap-talking Kelly Slater. It is refreshing to hear what is really going on, and these are the things we love so much. Chris
Perfect.
from New York.
I was a huge oversight not to include Ron. I mean, he is as surf journalist as any one of us here.
Agreed.
Covering the boards we like to ride. And man, that backside 3 for days. What does that score? What does a backside carving 360
It's
score?
not carving. It's not a carving 3.
Backside 360s are hard though.
I mean,
I made the argument that they're not as hard.
Really? Can you whip them?
I haven't tried one in years, but that I was telling Chaz, that was my go-to move, like in my high school, early college days, where at the end of a wave, when there's maybe it's like an end section, but it doesn't have any power, it's really a pivot maneuver is what it is.
Yeah.
So you just kind of angle the nose of the board back and kind of put the pressure on the fins, and it spins you around the other direction. It's easy.
Ron throws 360s as a he uses them.
Maneuver.
Opening maneuver. Yeah.
Totally. Have you ever noticed on Board Porn's Instagram, whenever he posts footage of himself, he does backside 360
every time,
all the time.
No kidding. I haven't seen that,
That's
but I'll
his
check
move.
it out.
Yeah.
Huh.
Just find a picture, find any video of him surfing, and guaranteed there will be a backside 3 in there.
Uh-huh.
Ron, good job,
So
Ron.
shout out to Ron.
Yeah.
He's invited.
Yeah.
By the way, at the end of his email, he said, keep working. How funny is it that keep up the work has become the slogan?
Yep.
Some listener called in one time, and at the end of his call, he said, keep up the work. He didn't say keep up the good work.
Yep.
Just keep up the work.
Now people end their calls or their emails with that. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Huh.
He's not
Work.
complimenting our work.
Nope.
He's just acknowledging that it is work.
That we
that's
do
funny.
work.
Yeah.
Keep up the work.
It's funny.
Really good.
It's really funny. I don't know if the first guy intended it to be funny.
No, but it really grows well too, because
does.
it comes to, I mean, it's exactly what we do. We can't call this good. It's just
we're here every week doing it. It's not necessarily good.
We're a real process-oriented culture these days.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We've gone past the destination, and we've leaned into the journey in a huge way.
That's totally true.
Yeah.
That is actually true.
Yep. Failure too. I mean, there's TED Talks about failure.
Yeah.
TED Talks, there was something recently, and I didn't actually read it, but it was kind of reflecting on the TED Talk in a, I think, not such a complimentary fashion. TED Talks have gone out of style.
Yeah.
There's been a COVID. I haven't seen a TED Talk in the entire COVID.
I'll tell you what, for me, what makes TED Talks so painfully uncomfortable is that they, like, I think initially it was people really sharing stuff that was interesting, right?
Yep.
Then it became a full-on formula of how you deliver a TED Talk.
Yes.
So everybody has the same kind of opening gambit thing. And then the da-da-da-da-da, like where it just became so formulaic, where all of these people are from vastly different, whatever, enterprises or worlds. And so it should reflect that, but it just became like a TED Talk is now a thing.
They undermine the entire thing, because I think that the original TED Talks, they were interesting because there were some really original angles.
Yep.
But the homogenization of the delivery killed the originality.
That's it.
Although Rodney Mullen, the skateboarder, his is brilliant.
I mean,
This was an original, though.
Yes,
That one's
that
like
was him.
12 years old at this point, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, they should almost spring it on you. You're doing a TED Talk. You have to get up right now. Like, invite cool people to it or interesting people to an audience and just pick some of them. But no preparation.
And be yourself.
You have to just stand up and talk.
The steeple hands thing, all the gestures. It's like a politician.
It's awful.
You feel like you're being sold something, and it's not what you want to feel when you're watching a TED Talk.
No.
That's why I no longer watch.
Don't like them.
But I've gotten some good things out of them too.
They used to be interesting.
There's one about vulnerability that's terrific.
Yeah, Brene Brown.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was a good one too. Kelly update. So I was advocating before the Pipe event. I was like, Kelly's going to retire at Pipe. That was the narrative I was pushing. He's going to win the event. There's all this
swell.
There's a swell. There is an actual swell. There's a figurative swell. It's his 50th birthday the following week. He's going to come up against these young bucks, knock them all out. He hasn't won an event in years. He hasn't been on top in years. He's going to use this moment to mic drop while he's on top. I was proven wrong last week, and Chaz was proven right. Chaz suspected Kelly never said that he wasn't vaxxed, because like that was the other part of that dialogue was he's probably not going to go to Australia, so why even compete the rest of the year? Just quit on top. Yep. Chaz was like, he's never said he wasn't vaxxed. He's only said he's against the mandates of vax. So to bring the listeners up to speed, Kelly did not retire last week. I feel stupid because I played that angle so hard.
Should have,
he probably should have. Jamie, you're friends with Kelly?
Yeah.
Is he vaxxed?
Great question. I don't know that.
Tell us.
No, I really don't know. I've never had that conversation.
Okay.
I haven't really engaged in the vax conversation that much. I mean, I know how I feel about it, but I've also sort of been open to other people's ideas. But I will say I have thought about Kelly's thing. And as a 71-year-old, veteran surfer, I've watched a lot of greats, and I've seen that moment where, when I was young and the generation I came up with, I watched some of my greatest heroes sort of fade away by like staying on tour and not quitting while they're ahead, so to speak. And then I've watched the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. And while there's something really nice about seeing someone great like Kelly go out with a big win at Pipeline at age 49, days before his 50th birthday, I have another thought on it. And that is, he's going to be 50. He's going to do this year on the tour. He could win the world title. Even if he doesn't, I don't think there's been like a 50-year-old athlete on an entire season's worth of athleticism. And in his legacy, that will be bigger than, he won the last contest he ever surfed. Do you know what I mean?
True.
And I think like if Sports Illustrated in 2050 were to go, here's the greatest athletes of the last 100 years, Kelly will be in that mix among the Michael Jordans, et cetera, for something that is like unprecedented, a 50-year-old flying, at the top of his game athlete.
If he makes the mid-year cut.
Yeah.
Even if
which
you don't.
Isn't guaranteed.
Yeah,
even if you don't, though, I think Kelly, as somebody who makes his living off clickbait, I've never wanted Kelly to ever leave, right? Kelly, that's why the World Surf League doesn't want him to leave either. Kelly is a story.
Yeah.
People are interested in Kelly. Yeah. So as long as Kelly is interested in doing it, I remember when Matt Warshaw, years ago, wrote something in the New York Times about how Kelly should retire.
Yeah.
This was like, I think it was after he won Kelly went and won one more title after Matt wrote this. So it would have been whatever that was. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember I did I didn't even know Matt at the time, but did like an eviscerating takedown of screw this old man, let Kelly surf forever. But I still feel the same way. Let Kelly surf forever. At
this point, I'm fully sold. I'm on board. Yeah. Like I agree with you. This story is way better than him having retired. He surfed good enough at Sunset. Like my concern was, God, how depressing it'll be if he shows up at Sunset and loses to Jake Marshall in round 2. You know what I mean?
Which essentially he did.
No, he didn't. He looked good at Sunset.
I think
he didn't look as good as Jack Robinson or John or anything.
My favorite part of the whole thing though was Kelly. It was the first angry thing I've heard out of a WSL broadcast in forever when his interview when he said, I don't respect the wave and the wave doesn't respect me.
Yeah.
Nice. How great is that? What a banging, like, I don't like Sunset, Sunset doesn't like me. Yeah. Is like having enmity between you and a wave.
Yes.
Which I feel only Kelly could actually embody that. Like,
yeah,
I could say, I don't like this place because it's crowded or whatever. Kelly doesn't like that wave specifically. Yeah. That wave doesn't like him.
Anthropomorphizing, however you pronounce it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for Kelly, as much time in the ocean and as much time as he spent surfing places alone, just due to even being in heats, right? Like he has a feeling for waves that obviously I would never have, but I think few others would have. And so to anthropomorphize it, like, I wonder if he does have a real feeling like these waves are people. And this person is as an asshole.
Yeah.
Sunset. Love it.
This is just a partial email that came through from somebody, but he said, in the end, my feeling is that Kelly's addicted to pro surfing. desperate for the accolades that come from winning, powerless to stop in front of the compulsive behavior, needing that next hit that becomes more and more elusive as time goes on. We will probably be forced to watch him shrivel on tour like a strung-out junkie to finally be forced into retirement at some sad mid-year cutoff. Oh well. Like all 50-year-old surfers, I'm proud and I'm stoked to have him for today at least.
I would not be surprised if Kelly, if he does get kicked off at the mid-year point, that he continues on tour and is just regularly in the booth. Like, you don't know why he's there, but he's just like at every stop. Like,
I mean, they'll give him
commenting.
wild cards, right? Like
Sure.
at Chopu, they'll give him wild cards. If Cloudbreak ever comes back, he'll get a wild card there. So,
but that win at Pipeline, I think he's safe for the mid-year.
we'll see.
I'm gonna say.
I don't know how the math really shakes out.
But I'm going to say a win because the mid-year comes quick. It comes in Australia. So I'm going to say one win before that likely makes, unless he goes out, equal 30, whatever it is, equal last.
So he didn't get last at Sunset. So that's probably, I don't know if that's a usable result, but it maybe not a throwaway result either. Bells he could do well at. Margaret River, maybe not. So if he shores up his number at Bells
or Margaret. Or
throws
Portugal too. Remember, we got Portugal in between. Isn't it weird they don't go straight to Australia?
Oh, I forgot.
Strange.
Portugal, that's right.
Strange.
See, he's a question mark at Portugal for me too.
Portugal at Super Tubos?
I don't.
Yeah.
I think, but it's always billed at Super Tubos, but rarely do they ever surf there. It's always like Peniche.
Well, it's in Peniche.
Huh.
It's in Peniche, but it's always some other, or I feel it's generally some other wave.
There's
It's
some
like
beach breaks around there.
Yeah.
In the Pipe Masters, there was a left. I want to say he got at Pipeline. He got barreled, and then he came out and did this big hooking backhand cutback. And as he hit the foam, he tried to bring it this way. Has that maneuver been done before? He almost did it. I've never seen that maneuver. Do you know what I'm talking about? And it's the backside 360 conversation earlier made me think of it. And he nearly pulled it off, but it was, instead of banking on the rebound and doing this sort of figure eight type thing, he tried to do like a carving 360 off a left, basically.
You know who's done it?
Ron.
CJ Hobgood in Indonesia on one of those rights in a video at some point.
No kidding. And he pulled it off.
He pulled it off.
Wow. It almost seems like it could become a standard move at some point, but it's an interesting move. And it weirdly kind of works with the energy, but not with the energy. It was kind of strange.
It was almost like the only thing that prevented it was the board being too long.
Yeah, exactly.
I do remember that exact maneuver.
Yeah,
it was sick.
Super interesting.
Yeah. Did you watch Sunset yesterday?
No.
Did you see the Kelly priority interference?
I did.
Do you have thoughts on it?
I mean, to me, this is one of those things where Kelly did not interfere on John's wave, right? Like,
should I explain it to Jamie real quick?
Explain it to Jamie.
So they're running
They were
over
in different heats, right?
overlapping heats.
Yes. Yeah.
Correct.
4 people in the water, 2 separate heats happening.
Correct. And John was in the priority heat with priority in that heat.
Gotcha.
Kelly, in the secondary heat, took off deep, and he's racing down the line. He's actually doing a bottom turn, and John's paddling out, and he realizes this is a potential wave with score on it. So as he's paddling out in front of Kelly, he turns in the whitewash.
Does one of those no paddle kind of pop to your feet?
Actually takes off sideways. It gets kind of pushed in sideways.
Yep.
Kelly, who's bottom turning in that exact, or kind of in front of that exact whitewash, sees what John is doing, but he's already projecting kind of out to the open face. So he just goes ahead and kicks out. But John spins in that whitewash, gets up, and so he goes over Kelly's tracks. Kelly gets an interference because John went over his tracks.
Oh, wow.
So the only other option that Kelly would have had, even though he's kind of mid-bottom turn, would be to take a drastic straighten out line and, get rolled over by all of that whitewash. Not ideal for Kelly. That's the only way he could have avoided the John thing. But it wasn't as if John was paddling into the wave from the outside and Kelly saw that. John's paddling out like he's going to duck dive the wave. So Kelly, it was an kind of conventional way for John to take off, which I think threw Kelly off a little bit. Kelly knows the rules. Kelly knows that if John crosses his track, Kelly gets an interference, but he chose to kick out of the open face. John spun and went. Kelly ends up getting an interference, loses the heat. John ends up losing that heat as well, which is neither here nor there. But
wow. I mean, I think it's one of those, like, the World Surf League or professional surfing, I mean, Jamie could speak to this well better than me, but where you have a set of rules like that are so specific that they just like they come back to bite you in the ass, where it should be the rule for interference should be fairly simple. If you impede the other surfer, or if you really get in the way, it shouldn't be about crossing tracks or anything like arbitrary, right? Like and then you could have the judges look and say, okay, did Kelly alter John's what he was going to do? And I think in that case, you could reasonably conclude, no, that would have been better for the event, better for that heat, better for everything, right? So this rule, arbitrary rule, got in the way of good surfing, which I think, or enjoyable surfing for the viewer, which I think happens so much I think they should really rip up the entire rule book, simplify it down to like 5 or 6 things, and that's it, right? And then it doesn't need to be.
I don't think the rule is arbitrary necessarily.
I mean,
I think the mistake that's made is trying to make surfing objective, trying to make judging objective, trying to make these things, these priority, whatever objective.
The crossing tracks thing.
That rule is in a place for a good reason, and it usually makes perfect sense.
Mean well.
But then there's these little elements that need room for subjectivity. Like in that exact example, Kelly absolutely did not hinder John's path. If Kelly would have straightened out, he actually would have put John in peril because they would have been closer to connecting. His board could have been in the way of John. So there needs to be room in the criteria for subjectivity.
Especially at somewhere like Sunset. Like Kelly probably, like it's such a huge area where like how in the world could Kelly even know anything at that? I mean, and so to ding him, to dock him, like I'm all, about fair play and all that. But again, I mean, I harp on a lot. I just think all these rules, and they're going to add probably, if they do anything, it would be to add more rules.
Right.
Like to
just the wrong direction.
Precisely. To make sure that something like this doesn't happen again, instead of just saying, wait, this rule is way too complicated. We should leave it up to subjectivity. We can never know somebody's intention, but if somebody is not intending to, interfere or get in the way and they don't, then that's good enough, right? Yeah. It's a pretty simple, up to the judges. Interference is it's a call depending on time, place, whatever's going on.
Right.
Yeah. Would he have advanced from the heat otherwise?
No.
Might have.
Okay.
I mean,
it changes the whole
thing. Yeah. He knew he couldn't win at that point, and he was so rattled, I think. I think people were wondering why he was even staying in the water, right?
Yeah, well, wondering why Matt McGillivray was staying in the water. Matt McGillivray was his opponent. He had a 9-point ride and a small backup, but that put it like a 3-point ride, but that put him over the 10-point mark. So even if Kelly got a 10, he still couldn't win the heat.
Yep.
So they're like, Matt should go in so he doesn't get injured.
Yep.
But yeah, Kelly would have surfed a heat differently from that point on.
Yeah.
Had he not.
I have a couple thoughts. One, when there are 2 heats happening at once, which they do in Hawaii, mostly to my knowledge, do they do it elsewhere?
Yeah.
Okay. It's always a little confusing. I mean, it's like a weird thing and I understand the logic. We got to get through these heats. The waves are good. Let's do it. It's more action in the water. More waves are being ridden. If there's only 2 guys out and it's perfect waves, we're watching empty waves go by, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, back in my day, I swore I would not say that. Back in
You've got the cardigan on. You're really
There were 4-man heats in Hawaii. Most of the heats were 4-man. There were 4-man finals. And that gave you all the action in the water for surfers.
And you knew where you sat.
Yes. And it was never this thing. Cause it's almost like if you go to a music festival and you listening to one band off one stage and another band off another, it's sort of like, it's hard to kind of, I don't know.
I like it.
Do you? Yeah. I mean, look, there are more waves ridden, and if the thing is basically you just have an appetite for watching great surfing, it's perfect. But if you're trying to keep in track of he needs a such and such, it's a lot more.
Well, especially if you could just make it a 4-man heat. That's what they should do, is just make these in Hawaii. It should be 4-man heats.
I like man-on-man heats.
Yeah.
I think that creates a little bit more direct dynamic.
Yeah, I agree.
More tension. The other thing is this allows them to do 40-minute heats too.
Yes.
Which is kind of a benefit.
Yeah, that's true.
One thing that might actually help solve what you're talking about, what if they ran the men and the women simultaneously? So
great.
It is 4 people in the water, but it's 2 men, 2 women.
Oh, man.
And that creates a parity as well, because we're always talking about, they put the women out in crappy conditions or whatever.
What are the waves? What are the waves doing today?
Pumping. I'm watching it right now. The women are out and they're shredding.
Good on them.
Yeah, they're really surfing well. So wouldn't that solve so many problems?
Oh, and there's the possibility. Yeah, no, this is really, really a good idea.
How have they not done this?
Yeah. I mean, and we're in the gender equality is an important thing right now. Let's just
Make it
mix
equal.
it all up.
Well, they pose, beat the equality drum, and then implement rules that actually are not equal. You know, or in practice, it ends up not being equal.
Yes.
Because they run in lesser conditions or whatever.
But you're saying it's as
That's
good
a really
today
good idea,
as
David.
it has been the last 2 days.
It is, yeah.
Okay,
I'd say
great.
so. I'm just kind of glancing over and stuff, so I'm not fully engaged in it. But yeah, the conditions look as good.
Sunset is one of the, I know that people have a distaste for it. I've only paddled, I think, there once. But watching it, I really like the way Sunset looks. Like in terms of a wave that I would like to go paddle out and surf and get good at.
Was it on tour when you were on
Yeah.
tour?
Did you like surfing Sunset?
Yeah, I had some great moments out there. It was a difficult wave. I don't feel like I ever got it down, but to be out there with 3 other surfers and these just, I mean, I remember several heats where it was just these like seemingly mountainous. I mean, now the waves have gotten a lot bigger, but for me at that time, these big like looming west swells coming in, and we rode bigger boards back then. I'd be on the 7.6. And you'd have all this paddle power, and it was so great to be out there. It was almost this thing where you'd forget you're competing. You're going, this is like one of the greatest surfs of my life right now. You know? That thing, I see it in Hawaii where you have like a great waves. I mean, the backdoor shootout was a good example of this, where it's like it's almost like these entry fees are being paid to go get to ride out there with just a few people. And that, when I was competing in Hawaii, all the breaks were like that. It was like, oh, this would be normally so crowded, it'd be hard to get a wave, and these are incredibly good waves that your entire like reason for surfing is to get to surf waves like these, and to be in a contest, you'd have that stress on, but you'd also just be in the moment going, this is fabulous out here.
Yeah. Would you guys sit on the point?
It depends on how big it was.
Because the first 2 days, there were waves breaking out on the point, and they weren't sitting out there.
Yeah.
They're sitting on the inside.
Yeah.
And Makua Rothman was in the booth calling them out.
Yeah.
It's just like, dude, Poncho and Miles Padaka or whoever else would have been sitting out there doing 4 swoops before they got to the section that these guys are taking off on.
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
No, that's interesting.
I love Makua's call out. I thought that was because he fully called him out. He was like, what are you guys doing?
I was kind of at the pipe event talking crap about Makua not adding a lot of insight. He's absolutely upped his game. In the Sunset event, he's sharp. He's like calling things out. He's the one who's actually being critical.
I think he really knows Sunset well, though. I mean, obviously it's his literal
He knows
backyard.
pipe well too.
Of course he does. But I think like the Kelly saying, I don't like the wave, a wave doesn't like me. I think Makua loves Sunset. And so really has an intimate, Makua loves Sunset and Sunset likes him. So I think he can speak to it.
His energy is better too. I feel like he went back to the drawing board after that pipe event and like tried to get better at commentating, and he's killing it.
Yeah, he's got a great voice. Great to listen to.
Yeah. One listener comment came in. This has come in the past, which is, why do he and his brother have such different manners of speech? Like Koa speaks like he's from the mainland, and Makua speaks like he does. Yeah.
I mean, Makua clearly, like, it's no great mystery, right? Like, Makua identifies with Hawaiian and Hawaiian culture. Therefore, people I think get mad that he's putting it on. But, eventually what you love becomes you, right?
Yeah.
At some way. And Makua, I think, has a very obvious love for Hawaii, Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian people, all of this. So, of course, he's affected by that, right? Like, just like you reading an Aussie surf magazine and putting on an Aussie accent, or sure, I did that back in the day too, right? Like where is that what's so wrong? I think people think it's Makua faking. I don't think it's faking at all.
He's leaning in.
Yeah. That is who he is.
Yeah.
And Ko is not that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome to do the Australian accent for the rest of the show if you want.
I haven't done it in a long time.
Perfect. Even better.
I would only embarrass myself.
Even better. Are you familiar with the Survival League?
No.
So a podcast listener created this league last year. Last year.
Yeah, last year was the first.
Survival League. And knockout kind of fantasy surfer format. So you pick $20 to buy in for the entire season, $3,000 grand prize at the end of the season for whoever wins. You pick one surfer for the event, and all that they have to do is make it past the round of 32. And then you're on to the next event.
But you can't pick the same surfer twice.
So I picked John for pipe, which means I can't pick John for the rest of the year. But he made it through pipe the round of 32. So I get to play again in the second event of the season.
Oh, nice.
And if you lose, you're out for the entire season and you can't buy back in.
Huh.
So who did you pick for the Sunset event?
Picked John Florence for the Sunset event. Felt
Safe,
real
safe
good,
pick.
100% safe. I gambled at pipe, picked Jordy, snuck through white knuckle. Sunset, no problem. I was already setting my pick for Portugal and for the Australian leg. Excited about the possibilities.
John's going to breeze through, right?
And then I saw David Lee and I were texting. Seth Moniz
I picked Seth.
Kicked into the elimination round, white knuckled there, and then white knuckled through who do you have?
Every heat so I picked Seth without a lot of confidence. I was like, I don't know why. I picked him because he got second and because I wanted a Hawaiian at Sunset, and I feel like Zeke, even though he's won Sunset before, I don't love him as a competitor. So I'm just going to go with Seth. He's coming in hot, and then he has barely scraped through each heat with like less than 10-point heat totals. In his round of 32 heat, it was against Joao Chumbo.
Yeah.
And it was so close. Joao needed a score. Right after the buzzer, he got a wave that would have been the score. So like Seth just barely squeaked through, but I survived.
You survived. I did not survive. Well, I saw that after you squeaked through, I was like, oh, good. Well, I don't even have to watch this. John, Jake Marshall. Like, but I tuned in midway, saw John got a 9. Didn't John get a 9 early or something?
I don't remember.
John got a big score right away. So I tuned into the stars like, great, survived. Looked back 15 minutes later and saw that John needed some score and time was ticking down. And I was like, oh, well, but also usually I play things stupid. I'd go on some whim, some odd flight of fancy. This one I played it so straight and lost. And so I just thought, oh, well, I was never supposed to win.
The field got decimated, I'm sure.
The
survivor field?
I think it's only down 50% from pipe between you. I would have thought it would have been more than that. I think it's down 50% after pipe and sunset.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled to still be in that 50%.
Should be.
I mean, that's a big calling. 50% in 2 events.
50% gone.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's epic. $3,000. Here I come.
Yeah.
Nice.
Got to think about the tax implication on that. I didn't want that stress.
Definitely not. So the other story that we have to just track is Caio Abelli. So Caio Abelli, I don't know if you follow this. Last year we sponsored him.
Okay.
This is not a joke.
No kidding.
We
crowdfunded.
We talked about he's got so much talent. He's such a he upsets the giants in previous years. He'll draw John and beat him. He draws Kelly, beats him, you know. So and he was sponsorless. And so we were like, man, we got to crowdfund a sponsorship. Like, let's come up with a sticker. So we created a For the People, that's what it said, sticker. And we reached out to Caio, and he said, $15,000, I'll put it on the nose of my board for one event. Mm-hmm. We came up with 7.5 with crowdfunding. So we put it on the chest portion of his board. We didn't get the nose, but we got the chest portion at Rottnest Island, the Rip Curl Search event.
Yep.
Lost in the round of 32.
Damn.
So we're just like, oh man,
Money down the drain.
But it was fun, you know. It was a couple of months of us like hyping Caio, social media movement, get behind him.
Yeah, that's great.
But the problem in hindsight was we bought him high. He had done all these great things, and so the stock was high. We paid full price, and then he continued to do poorly throughout the rest of the season and end up not even re-qualifying. So now the stock was low, but Gabriel Medina opts out of the season. Caio gets the wild card, made the semis at Pipe, and now he's in the quarters at Sunset.
Crushing it.
So we rode it at the wrong, we rode the stock from high to low.
Yeah.
We should have jumped on at the end of the season and rode it now.
We could have bought him off tour, 7.5
would have bought us the whole season.
For the whole season of him crushing it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, though. I'd like to see more of that, actually.
Yeah.
We
got to do it again.
Have skin in your athletes in that way.
Exactly.
And they have skin in you.
Exactly.
Gabriel Medina's off for the entire season?
We don't know yet.
He claimed he is.
No.
Did he? Not?
No. He said indefinitely.
Yeah.
He said he's sitting out the first portion of the season. And so we didn't know if that was one event, 2 events. You can assume it's probably all of Hawaii, but he hasn't said what his plans are.
This stuff, the mental health concerns around top level athletes, Naomi Osaka, Gabby Medina, etc. Do you think that's sort of the era we're living in, or do you think it might be like a COVID thing because people are falling apart over the last couple of years?
That's a great question.
What do you mean the era we're living in?
Woke sensitivity, embracing your sensitivity, of which I do a heck of a lot of, way too much. No, but I mean not trying to, like, there was the John Wayne, you know, drink a scotch and you man your way through stuff.
Rub dirt in it.
Yeah.
I think,
whereas we're now, and I'm speaking specifically for the male gender, but like there's a thing where men are more sensitive and they're able to address their stuff, right?
I think, yes, it is a reflection of that, and probably it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to take the other side.
I'm
going to say it's a bad thing. I'm going to say it's a Pandora's box that you're never going to actually get to the root of why you feel. You're just going to go in this bottomless pit of like self-thinking.
Yeah.
That's not going to lead anywhere decent. Just bottle it up, man.
So,
rub dirt in it. Stop thinking about it.
So I think some people it will affect that way. Others have a healthy relationship. Like a year off will benefit them. And so I don't know which version Gabriel Medina is, you know? And yeah, I think that the idea of like self-wallowing, like, oh, woe is me. You're absolutely right. It's not going to end up doing anything. You're not going to actually find the solution. I don't know where Gabriel lies.
I'm going to say even self-examining, you're not going to find the solution. I'm going to say you could go to, I mean, nothing against therapy or all day long, but also at some point, rub dirt in it and drink scotch.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
At some point, rub dirt in it. I feel like, I guess John hasn't taken years off for self-care. He's gotten injuries and then he's had the year off. But I think that he used that time for self-care.
I mean, he went sailing and he did what he liked
sailing,
to do.
He gets into photography. The part that I like about it for John is it wasn't an open conversation. Once you go on Instagram and say like, oh, woe is me, I'm really stressed out, send love and support, all that kind of stuff, then it becomes performative. And I don't think that it's necessarily the right motivation, you know?
Where do you stand, Jamie? Are you
I'm confused about all of it, quite honestly. I mean, I've done a lot of work on myself. I see a therapist, and I read a lot of books in that genre. I guess not so much self-help books, but no, I'm self-reflective, and I don't know if it's a good thing. And I'm actually just trying to escape it. But I'm predisposed to being in my head more than I want to be, and I recognize how I can be my worst enemy. So it does become this like spiraling of a self-obsession. This is why I like doing journalism and doing podcasts, because I get out of myself. But like left alone, I can be in my head way too much. But you know, I was once a professional athlete, and when I was in that time, I think there's so much good that comes from it. I mean, I think like the kind of scaffolding of a professional athlete, or like there's a lot of stuff that can take you through an entire life and get you through a lot of stuff. But it's interesting now because there is that more sensitive, reflective, you know.
I'm a whole person. I'm not just
It's such a compelling, like, where is the line of self-reflection for betterment and growth versus obsession and just spiraling down? You said at the beginning you had a red eye.
Yeah.
And if you do oat milk, you're fine. But if you have dairy, I see an analogy there, or I've experienced that, where it's like when I run a really strict diet, like no dairy at all, a tiny amount of dairy affects me drastically.
Yes.
I crap my pants.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're eating cheese regularly and all this, it's suddenly you're kind of bulletproof.
Yeah.
Your body can handle it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why I'm all about inoculation. You inoculate with fast food.
Yeah.
You should eat fast food once a week. That's what I do.
Yeah. And then your body just knows how to process things. You know, and also there's something about just living with that strict protocol of like, I'm not having anything, that you then don't appreciate anything either, you know?
Yeah.
You have to allow for some of that discomfort, some of the trash to come in.
I agree for sure. I read an essay recently about trauma and the overuse of this word, because there's such a language around it all now, right? Like we didn't even have these words. I mean, people were like, obsessive compulsive, that wasn't even a phrase 35 years ago, whatever. And so sometimes I think people grab onto the language and it becomes the not so much the excuse, but they sort of they use that. But I was traumatized by the non-dairy milk that I had to drink at Starbucks in my coffee this morning, and therefore I'm not feeling so great. Like
It ruins your day.
No, just be okay with milk and just move on.
Exactly.
You know,
100%.
So I think there is like there's a weird. I mean, it's like I'm always trying to figure out where it sits, because on the one hand, maybe we're in this like self improvement culture, right? And a lot of the athleticism, a lot of the stuff we were talking about, the Laird creamers this morning, like Laird is clearly doing that. And I think there's some great things around it. And I think we can maximize who we are, but then there's also, we can be overly obsessed with it, where we're constantly trying to figure out if we're like calibrated right for everything. And sometimes it's just, you just got to just move on. It's just life. Some days you feel good. Some days you feel shitty. You can have so many prerequisites that you're never your optimum or best self, is like the popular term.
Or even if you achieve the goal that you set out to achieve with the 6-pack or whatever it is, you're not happy.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you're so self-obsessed.
Exactly.
Or you're so focused on the goal.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of talked about Gabriel in past years is, yeah, awesome, you're achieving world titles, but at what end? Like, at what cost?
Yeah.
You're not enjoying any of it. All your relationships have suffered, that sort of stuff.
Poor kid. Yeah, I mean, Gabe seems like he's in the midst of it now.
Tortured.
Yeah.
He's tortured.
Wife, marriage broken, family seemingly busted.
Yeah.
But an olive branch from Mama Medina. Did you
I
see
saw
that?
that. Yeah, I did see that.
Dear son.
You're talking about self-help books. You know that George Carlin joke?
Needs? Oh, no, but I love George Carlin.
He's like, I mean, I'm going to give a
I
very
know the one you're
abbreviated
talking about.
version.
Yes.
Just the point of it is there's no such thing as self-help. He's like, if you're going to the store to read a book written by somebody else, that's just called help. Like, that's not self-help.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote a book. They're giving you help.
Yeah.
That's called help. There's no such thing as self-help.
Yeah. No, but it's so interesting that, because I think a lot of the, like you talk about, like the 6-pack chest and the, like, these ideas of maximizing who we are, being best selves. And a lot of it is maybe not even who we really are. We're just sort of buying into the capitalist, like, advertising that's everywhere telling us how we're supposed to be. Totally. And people lose sight of that, I lose sight of that. I think and growing up in this country, I think we're like exposed to a lot of that. And we have big celebrity culture, and we have this idea of like what it means to have your life just rocking along. And it's often for like external reasons. It's often like to appear a certain way to other people, but we maybe haven't even like gotten into our core enough to know what we actually want. And maybe that thing is like, it's not about what they are telling us we're supposed to be so happy with.
We forget. I mean, I think you knew what you wanted when you were young, right? And things were simplified and you weren't all cynical. And you just kind of forget that.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm trying to be the best example I can to everybody by being worst, being a lazy surf journalist.
No,
I'm trying. Fixing my spelling.
It's inspiring, Chaz. I'm learning from you every day.
Be worst.
One thing we have not talked about in recent weeks, but it has been a delight for me on Monday, the other days of the week that we don't get together. Sterling Spencer's return to greatness.
Amen. Me too.
How have we not talked about this?
I have no idea, because I was worried that
It was temporary.
Kind of like I haven't talked about this because I was like confused about his collapse as well, right? Like he was such. Have you watched any of this?
No.
Jamie? So
Do you
Sterling?
like Sterling?
I do. What I know of him, I don't know him that well.
So Sterling, wonderfully comedic, very, very funny. Had his early career, I guess not even early, his whatever, 5 years ago.
The zenith of his career.
Yeah, was,
Pinch my salt.
And and also, I love the movie. Is it Gold?
Yeah.
Absolutely love it, right? Bob Saget's in it. I mean, it's very, very funny. Very funny. And then
surf satire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then he really seemed very publicly to go through a crisis, like a mental health crisis of, I think, CTE was...
He had a head injury.
Yeah, had a head
Surfboard hit
injury.
him in the head.
And there was, it was really difficult to watch. Like it was very public, right? Very Instagram
he
stories.
was on Instagram. I'll tell you exactly. We never discussed it at the time because we didn't know if it was a part of his comedy, like if he was actually playing a part or not. He did this long Instagram story that was like multiple stories long, selfie mode in bed crying, saying that his wife is abusing him. And then like she's taken my phone from me. She won't let me communicate with my audience because she's abusing me. She's been hitting me, all this stuff. Then that gets disappeared. And then I think his wife did make a statement at some point. But so it was kind of like, oof, if this is his attempt at comedy.
It'd be really good if it was, I mean, it would be very.
I don't know. It's so risky.
Very Kaufman-esque.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it seemed like it was like he was sincerely in a bad place. Not that his wife was sincerely abusing him or anything like that, but he was sincerely in a bad place. And he has spoken openly about the head trauma and attributed a lot of what's going on in his recovery to the head trauma.
Okay.
So that kind of brings us a little bit up to speed. He goes to Hawaii this winter. So now he's been spending time in Hawaii and he's been doing these comedy shorts.
It's so funny.
I'll check them out.
They're
teaching people teaching pros how to surf. It's all about the Sterling Spencer Surf School. Yeah.
He's putting these signs up on telephone poles saying like, rip off a tab, call me, and I'm a surf instructor.
Mm-hmm.
He's like but it's like world's greatest surfer or something. Is that what we always build?
Right.
World's most popular surfer or something.
Great.
So he's shooting all this stuff as like he's a surf instructor, but then he's on the beach during the Pipe Masters and Kelly's coming out of the water and he's right there with his filmer to like film putting his arm around. So they're cutting it together as if he's Kelly's coach, and that's why Kelly's.
That is really good.
He did one with Carlos Munoz as well. And then my favorite one was him finding enlightenment with Tom Carroll. So Tom Carroll is now in on the joke. So Tom Carroll's dressed in a Buddhist robe, meditating, and Sterling comes up and like tries to touch his feet. Tom swats his hand away, nice. It's so funny.
Really, really good stuff.
They obviously developed a script, but then also went off the cuff. But Tom's now an actor in the. It's amazing.
Wow, that sounds really good.
It's so good.
I mean, yeah, but so don't know what happened, but happy to have Sterling back being funny.
He's hilarious.
Publicly. Which I suppose, though, back to mental health and all this, I mean, how many comedians? Sterling was, I think, the only rare surf comedian. I mean, you know, like John Wayne Freeman and the people who do comedy around surf, it's all fine and good, right? But they're not like surfs. I mean, Sterling has something else. Sterling is like, has this real deep art. And how many comedians are, you know, miserable, like very deeply disturbed people?
Yes.
Notable mentions,
Robin Williams.
Paul Fisher. In terms of other surfer comedians.
Yeah.
Paul Fisher was fantastic when he was doing
was.
Fishtails at that same time.
Yep.
He's dropped the comedy and had a successful career as a DJ now, but he's still amazing.
Yeah.
Luke Cederman doing Ragtime.
I mean, Luke Cederman is hilarious too. It's totally true. Cederman.
But he's come late.
Yeah.
Sterling and Fisher were the first two.
Godfathers.
Yeah. So anyways, everybody follow Sterling. He's amazing.
Very funny.
Do we want to touch on Joel Tudor and give an update on that situation?
I mean, you just got him. Yeah, I suppose we should. Have you heard about this story, Jamie?
About bringing more women's longboarding contests into the WSL.
Basically.
Okay.
That's
part
how
of
I
it.
started there, but I haven't followed it since.
Yeah, I mean, so short of it is, WSL, there's a rumor that the WSL was going to cut the Longboard World Tour from 3 events to 1 event.
Okay.
Rumor got...
Well, it was at 1 event. They finally got up to 3. Now they go back to 1.
Back to 1. Was the rumor. Only rumored, though, right? And so Joel Tudor catches wind of this, and it infuriates him because he catches wind as he's watching the Pipeline, not Masters, the Pro Pipeline, as it became called, watching how heavily the WSL leans into women's longboarding for all promotion, right? A bunch of ads featuring equality in women's longboarding as as, you know, their ad copy all over the website is, you know.
They cut away to a Billabong commercial, and it's women longboarding beautifully, you know.
Like that's, you know, been the go-to for a long time. I think it irked Joel because it has irked him for a long time. No, you know, that Roxy was basically, you know, besides Lisa Anderson and these girls, built on the backs of women's longboarding, except never once were they paid, you know,
fairly.
Anywhere near anything, right? For how much they were getting used. So Joel's like, do the right thing, WSL, and had screenshots of both engagement on the engagement on the WSL's own Instagram between female shortboarding and longboarding is wild. Longboarding gets so much more engagement from their own audience, right? Yeah. So he's basically, do the right thing. I hear this rumor that you're going to cut it. These women longboarders are actually, you know, have been doing this for a long time and have never been fairly paid, et cetera, et cetera. don't cut the tour.
Yeah.
And pay them fairly.
Yeah, pay them fairly. Jesse Miley Dyer, the commissioner of the World Surf
And by
League,
the way, Joel Tudor is their current world champ.
Yes, he is.
Which is worth stating.
Yep.
took it upon her, so that was infuriated by Joel's Instagram post, apparently asked him to take it down, but then also decided to release a letter to the longboarders saying that Joel is being misleading and whatever, that he basically saying that what Joel was saying, even though he very clearly did not say this, was that the women longboarders are not getting paid as much as the men longboarders. Mm-hmm. So this whole letter is about, equality, equality, equality. Yes, we love it, blah, 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 blah. Joel, being Joel, just publishes the letter, right? And so now...
So she asked him to take it down, said, you're not being helpful. So instead what he does is call her out on Instagram and publish the letter on Instagram.
I did see that part. Yeah.
And tags the New York Times in it and some other mainstream media, hoping that they'll pick it up.
Okay.
And basically says, screw you, I'm doing the opposite. You guys misunderstood what I was saying, and you absolutely should be paying us.
Yeah, so I called Joel. We had a great chat. But yeah, Joel's points, I mean, like, it's weird. The beef to me online is that I don't want to watch longboarding, right? That's what people say on Beach Grip particularly. Like, I don't want to watch pro longboarding. Fine, don't watch pro long. Nobody should or has to watch anything, right? I don't understand, though. I would think that there is both a business opportunity. If the engagement really is as high as it appears to be, why not? Like, and Joel's point is too, you already have all these stops on tour. Why not just invite us to roll us on the down days? You got a 10-day waiting period.
That was a great call.
Roll us on the down days at, and he's not even being greedy. He's like at 3 of these stops. Yep. Just have us at Bell's, where it was Bell's, France. I can't remember specifically where he wanted to go.
Great call.
Yeah, but why not?
Yeah, it's such an interesting one because I'm going to say something that I'm not sure I even believe, but it's just as I'm listening, I'm thinking this. So you look at shortboarding on the world tour, and it's this high performance, kind of tightly wound sort of style of surfing. And as a regular surfer at Malibu First Point for my entire life, some of the best longboarding I see, it's not trying to win a contest. It's so expressive. And Cassia Mayador, who's one of my favorite surfers across the board, was not so much a competitor. And I've talked to her about this. She was a free surfer. So while I want to see as many opportunities to earn money and to showcase their skills as possible for longboarders, both men and women, there's a part of me that likes the fact that it was an epiphany for me. At one point, I wrote a profile for the Surfers Journal of Trace and Chad Marshall. Mm-hmm. And when they told me their whole surfing odyssey, how they came to it, going to the Noosa Surf Festival for the very first time, drinking with their heroes that night, sleeping past their heats the next morning, or however it went, I might be exaggerating, but it wasn't about we were training and we were psyching up. It was, we were part of this fun, the original spirit of surfing. To my mind, if longboarding went into the realm of there's a full tour, there's 12 events per year, and there's a lot of money, it might... Some of the stuff that's most beautiful about longboarding is a grace and and not trying. And if it were to be sort of try to fit into the constraints of the competition format, it might kill off a lot of the stuff I love most about longboarding, both for men and women.
But what if they just, this is the WSL, I think, is so unimaginative. I think what Joel did with the duct tape invitational, right? There's a way for the WSL to do that where you blow it out to almost a jam format.
Yes.
There's a festival. Great. There's
there you have it.
You're showcasing this, but it's not about, you would have fun announcers in there, not people who, are unable to say anything at all. You would make it this, you could have it be this whole part of surfing.
I fully agree with you.
That is just, and I don't know why the World Surf League wouldn't want to lean into that. It seems like there's a huge market for it.
The last year of competitions, they really solved the judging so that it was focusing on a lot of what you're talking about and not necessarily high performance longboarding.
Yep. No, the jam format is a great idea. And I remember there used to be a Roxy Jam every year in France. And I went to it several times. And it was just this fun event.
Fun.
And the vibe on the beach was not like people psyching up with their headphones on. It was chatting. It was almost like just a big, it was like a fair or like a carnival on the beach. But that, I think, that is a great, that's to my mind in some ways, and I could be wrong about this, and there are probably a lot of people who would argue, but what I love most about longboarding is it has that vibe. The surfers that I grew up, weirdly, coming up on the beach in Malibu, there was Third Point where we were all shortboarders trying to win the next amateur contest and become pro surfers. And then down at First Point was there were a lot of old guys, and then in the early 90s, thanks to people like Joel, there was a lot of younger people in it, and they were just having fun, and there wasn't a viable pro career that you could have. So they brought this like lightness and play to surfing, to their longboarding, that I really appreciated. If you could somehow maintain that, and it would actually, I think, do the WSL a world of good, because the WSL is, we do associate it with a more jock approach to surfing, with all due respects, but it's like that we think of it in that way. When I watch a lot of the WSL stuff, it feels like I could be watching an NFL thing, and that doesn't feel like the surfing that I know and love deeply, you know?
It's the narrowest segment of surf culture.
Yeah.
I mean, the crazy high performance, like actually caring about scores and strategies and all that. It's like
that's been teased out so much and like brought into the like
as
fist
if
pumping
that's the
thing,
main thing,
and that's, I don't like a fist pump.
Well, everything you're saying is true. I should state the only reason Joel made this statement is because the WSL beats the equality drum so hard.
exactly.
Joel
Joel was totally irked by hearing equality,
talking about
equality,
pay,
seeing
that.
pictures of women's longboarding, and then, sorry, your tour is getting ripped down to nothing.
Yeah, Joel's great entertainment that way. And I do, and I like, it would be great to see a lot of women longboarders have an opportunity to earn a bunch of money and be public, and then get sponsors on the back of it and all the rest of it.
What I don't understand is, and we've talked to Devin Howard about this, is I don't understand. Longboarding is the one place where you could have men versus women and have them just go. I don't think that on a lot of the waves, women's longboarding, or the way women longboard, is, you know, graceful, beautiful. Like, they could take men down. Like, you could just have a mixed draw.
Yeah,
Totally.
for sure. There was a time 20 years ago where you could make a comment like, a lot of longboarding is more feminine than it is masculine. You can't say that today, but you used to be able to say that.
And it still holds true.
Yeah.
We're going to take a commercial break. We'll come back with True Grit or Clickbait and Barrel or Not.
Great.
I'm actually going to take a pee break. We normally don't, but
You guys are loads of fun. You guys do this every week.
We do.
How great.
We do it every week. We just sit
so
and
much fun.
jibber jabber. Yeah, I mean, with David Lee and I, it's just always fun, just because it's nonsense jibber jabber.
So much
Just
fun.
whatever,
I like it. I like it.
We have fun, or I have fun. I don't know if he has fun.
Yeah. How was the snowboard event that you went to, and you saw Matt Barr and Owen, who are Tozer? Those guys are so cool.
I love Matt and Owen so much, and it's such a great. I mean, Travis, that event is epic. They really figured out how to do an like extreme sport event that feels natural.
Yep.
Like, I mean, I remember early when they were first devising it, we were down in Mexico with them actually for like the brainstorm trip or whatever, and I just kept hammering on, don't make this thing like surfing. Like, just have it be head on head with, or man on man, head on head with like a blood feud kind of element to it. And so they figured that out beautifully. Where I don't know if the format is.
No, Matt wrote a little one of his newsletter or emails that he sends out, talking about what we can learn from it. And it was actually with you, right? Yeah. It was an interview with you. Yeah. Exactly. But no, that was great.
That head to head, like, if they would do that with surfers, if they had surfers pick who their competitor was going to be, like screw heats, all this stuff is like, who wants to see high seeds going against low seeds ever? Yeah. To build up to maybe a quarterfinal where, you know, where maybe some low seed surprise you. Like, the surprises that you get are not worth the amount you have to slog through, I think, of low seeds losing and then grist to the mill.
Yeah, it's interesting that. I like that idea, though, what we were just talking about with longboarding being more the jam format, the way the duct tape challenge has done that. And the thing that's been, I think, cool about those duct tape challenge events is you're almost like witnessing a culture. Yeah. And you know, you could argue the same thing with the WSL World Tour, but that culture it's been prevalent. We kind of know it, and we know that it's like modeling itself on any other athletic thing where it just has that jock quality, for lack of a better description. But like, the duct tape challenge is just like this tribe, you know. I mean, and I don't know, like the WSL getting into events too. You would think that you could sell. I mean, you'd have music. You'd think that kind of stuff. Man, maybe it doesn't. I'm no businessman, but I would think that would. Like, why not? Why not expand into that? For sure.
Commercial break. Chaz, we're still in commercial right now.
Oh, great.
We need to tell Jamie about the greatness of athleticgreens.com/surf.
I'll tell you. I drink coffee in the morning, too. Maybe I'm going to start putting Laird in my coffee. But what I always do before my coffee, I shake myself up and athleticgreens.com/surf.
Well, you know, I know a little bit about Athletic Greens because I listen to the Huberman Lab.
No way.
Yes. You ever listen to the Huberman Lab?
No.
Oh, it's great. And he talks about Athletic Greens. And you know what's so nice? He doesn't plug it as like, you know, this is the sponsor. He actually says, I've been using this stuff long before I even started my podcast. And that to me was really cool.
See, I did not, but I listened to Tim Ferriss years and years ago, and he would talk about it. And so I always wanted to try it, but I just never did for whatever reason.
Yep.
And so when they reached out, I did start using it, but I had an awareness about it. But ultimately, do you like feeling good?
I love feeling good.
Do you like sleeping well?
Yes, very much so.
Do you like having all of your vitamin, mineral, and nutrient requirements met?
Very much so.
Do you not like having certain diseases that are...
Shut up, dude.
Yes,
Tries
that
to
too.
butcher the ad copy.
I'm
every
so
time.
grateful though because I get half a dozen Athletic Greens to drive home with at the end of the day today. You guys are saying.
I'll mail them to you. I'll mail them to you.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but no,
I
I hear good things about Athletic Greens. I must try.
It's honestly the easiest. I mean, I'm eating fast food once a week. I'm also Athletic Greens every day. That gives me the power to eat that fast food once a week.
That's the key.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look, I eat generally healthy, but I don't necessarily get all of my greens and, you know, vegetables every single day.
Yeah.
This is basically, it is whole foods pulverized into a powder.
Yep.
So it's one scoop.
Yep.
And so you kind of make sure that you get all of that important stuff in every single day, first thing in the morning. Best to do it on an empty stomach so your body absorbs it well. And then if you have fast food later in the day, you don't feel bad about it.
Good.
Nice.
It's from New Zealand too.
Yeah.
Organic from New Zealand.
Wow, that sounds so good.
Your surfboard shaper takes it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Is that Britt Merrick?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bang.
Wow.
He does it because of us.
Huh.
So there you go.
I'm going to
Enough
try the
said.
I'm going to try the Athletic Greens.
I'll send it to you.
What else? Any other
Nope.
other stuff we should?
That's it. But you have to use our portal, which is athleticgreens.com/surf.
Okay.
It's important. Then you get the vitamin D drops, and we all know what those do.
Yep. Cures you. Whatever ails you. And supports our work here. athleticgreens.com/surf.
Nice.
All right, we're back from commercial.
Real quick before we go into, because headline related, I saw just this morning, in fact, might have been last night, Jamie Brisick has a new article out in the not the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. I only could read the first paragraph because I was paywalled, but it seemed like Jamie Brisick was going to take a hatchet to the North Shore of Oahu.
I like the idea of a hatchet.
I mean,
It was a dull hatchet.
That hurts even more.
It's way more. It doesn't kill you quick.
No, I guess here's the thing. I've been going to the North Shore since 1982. Most every year. I mean, I've missed winters. So I've seen a lot of change, obviously. But what appealed to me, and I guess if there was like my thesis, I live in Los Angeles. The wave quality doesn't deliver enough to kind of sustain a lifetime of surfing. There's a point where it's diminishing returns, which is, I think, how I put it in the piece. So you inevitably find stimulation and interests elsewhere. Whereas the North Shore has been this one place, and I've observed this in traveling around, it's like the wave quality determines how much great surfing is going to fortify your life. And on the North Shore, you can, with the exception, of course, the summers goes flat for the most part. But like the winter surf can fulfill you. If you love to surf, you can be happy with that your entire life. And for a long, long time, you could live on the North Shore, maybe even raise a family, and put the surfing first and put the career second. And there are like, career waiters that work at Aloha Joe's, et cetera, and their whole thing is about the surfing. But I have watched it shift, and it didn't just happen, but I have watched it shift to where the cost of living, the rents and the home prices have gone up to such a degree that, it's the terrible irony that I felt growing up in Malibu, which is when I was young and naive and idealistic, I would drive by the homes along the beach and I'd think to myself, I love that ocean so much more than those people who live in their homes, and they're driving through traffic into the city to pay their mortgages to live there, and I should get to live there because I love that ocean and I'm engaged with it. The North Shore has always been that. It's not anymore. So that's kind of the thesis of the piece. Surfing eats itself, and I got a great quote from Randy Rarick saying, in 1976, we started the IPS. The North Shore was the center stage. It became the mecca of surfing. This is where you would go to prove your mettle as a surfer. And now surfing has gotten so big that everyone surfs, and it's so crowded, and there are, soft top kooks in the lineup. There's a great little clip on YouTube of one of the North Shore lifeguards like shouting at a couple guys who have no business being out at Pipeline, I believe it is. So that stuff's happening. So I guess the like my working title before the actual title of the piece was Surfing Eats Itself.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's a great title.
It's going to be the title of the Beach Grit post that accompanies this very podcast.
Mark Cunningham moved to Honolulu.
Yes.
And that's, I asked him that after he referenced it a few times in our chat. I was like, why the hell would you, of all people, move to Honolulu? You know what I mean?
I know.
And it was exactly that.
Yeah.
Is there any way to turn the clock back on that kind of stuff? Or is it just, there's no way, it just is what it is?
Good question. I don't think so. I mean, the biggest thing that people talk about, and so there's the Surfing Eats Itself theme, and part of that is true, is also like COVID. It's like, I remember so many people picked up surfing because during the pandemic, because it was the one thing that you could do outdoors and it wouldn't be a super spreader event if everyone gathered at the beach so much. And then there's also, someone pointed out to me that now that everyone works remotely, no one really misses a swell anymore because they don't have to be 9 to 5 at a job. They can sort of look on Surfline or wherever they go to know that this afternoon of that day will be the place. So it's more crowded than it's ever been. But then on the flip side of that are like the tourists that go for the turtles and they stop at Laniakea there. And so Randy Rarick, who lives at Sunset Beach, has talked about sometimes it'll take an hour to get to Haleiwa, which should be 8 minutes or whatever it is, right? So I think a lot of the people feel like that there are way too many people for this fragile place. Paul Theroux, the writer, who's a friend and mentor, pointed out that the worst thing that could ever happen is for a place to be called paradise. As soon as it's called paradise, it's going to be killed immediately. And I think to some degree, like the North Shore has such romantic associations, and everyone goes there now, and that's undone it. But I don't know if you can turn back that clock.
I don't think you could turn it back. I don't think it'll grow beyond they've done a good job of stymieing development. Because if somebody then built a new highway or a freeway above, that allowed more tourists.
Or a better hotel than the Turtle Bay.
Right. Or more of them or any of that, it would actually make the problem worse.
Yeah.
It's like by trying to solve the traffic flow, it would make it actually more people come.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's true.
I think it's maxed out.
Yeah. No, and I think a lot of and Mark Cunningham has been very active in trying to keep the country. Jack Johnson has as well. As you drive out to Turtle Bay, there's a gate for a home that has a long driveway, and there's a sign that says "Nuff Hotels Already."
Yep.
Nuff hotels already.
Right.
And I always look at it and go, "Yep, I love that."
I have a picture of that one in the book.
Do you?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, this segment, Jamie, is called True Grit or Clickbait Shit. And that is because Chaz has been accused
unfairly,
time after time, day after day, week after week, year after year, of writing these salacious headlines that ultimately don't mean much. So I read him his own headline, and he has to defend either, no, this is a real story, or you're right, you got me, that was clickbait.
Okay.
Yep.
Fun.
So headline number 1. It's hard to even read the headlines oftentimes because they're so verbose. And another thing we identified is they all end with exclamation points.
Nice.
I think there's 2 stories in the history of Beach Grit that didn't have exclamation points. All right. Quote, in wake of extremely successful Billabong Pro pipeline, World Surf League CEO self-identifies as greatest of all time alongside event winner Kelly Slater, exclamation point. Subtitle, 2 goats, 1 cup.
You like that?
The best subtitle of all time.
That's very good.
2 goats, 1 cup. All right.
I'm going to say this is not clickbait. Well, it's on the fence here. So Eric Logan, do you know Eric Logan?
Yeah.
World Surf League CEO.
Yep.
On his Instagram, he shared a photo that somebody else had posted, right? So he didn't make the photo. Somebody else made it. But it said, like, stop me if you heard the one about 2 goats walking to a bar. Well, the only people in the picture were Kelly and Elo.
On the stage after the pipe win.
So somebody else was calling Elo one of the goats. Okay. Elo then shared that on his own social media. So then I was thinking, well, then you're you're taking this on. You are self-associating as a goat.
Yep.
it did look, if you didn't know the backstory, it looked like he wrote that caption himself.
Yes.
It looked like he said, 2 goats walk into a barn. It's like, wait a second. One dig deeper, you realize somebody else. But you're right. Even
If you share it,
I would have specifically not posted it because that person wrote that.
Well, and I'm for certain Eric had access to that photo of him and Kelly, a clean version. He chose to share the one.
He took the photo.
Yeah.
You're right.
So he chose to share the one that was
called him a goat.
It's incredible the levels of desperation, and I'm as guilty as anyone that go on. Like, I remember years ago, I will say there's a graphic designer named David Carson.
Love
famous.
David Carson.
I love David Carson too.
This is the exhibit that's happening at Album Surfboards.
No way. Okay, terrific. But I remember at one point David had in a book posted fan mail, and I responded, and I will say this to David. I love David, but I thought like, oh, that's kind of like not tasteful. Yeah. In this day and age, everyone does it. I do it. And so David was ahead of his time. But then you get it on like someone's birthday and they post all their birthday like greetings.
Ooh, we talked about this in the past.
It is such a strange time we live in that
strange.
way.
Forget about posting your birthday greetings. What about a selfie on their own birthday saying, hey, it's my birthday today.
Yeah.
It's my 30th. Thrilled to be 30 today.
Yeah. No, these are some desperate times.
Desperate times. I mean, the strokes that people want. Like, why? I don't understand. Met Eric Logan. Love Eric Logan. Great. Call him a great friend of mine. But
I don't know about that.
But why does Eric Logan have a damn Instagram account to begin with? It's not like he's, I'm sure he would say he's promoting the WCO. Why does a 50-odd-year-old man have an Instagram account?
Yeah.
David Lee. Why does he?
It's the day we're living in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I agree with you. I think that I'm not cut from that same cloth, except I find myself inclined to post photos of me and Lauren. When
Valentine's Day. I mean, of course,
yeah.
you have to. You have to. If you have it, you have to. But that's not the reason you have your Instagram account. You have your Instagram for business. I have mine. I have mine for business. Then you get caught in the trap when you have to do that kind of stuff, or else you look like a real jerk. I'm caught in that trap too, right?
Well,
Eric Logan is not using his for business.
We're kind of caught in the middle, I think, in that I originally signed up for it to engage with my friends and family. So I still want to post those selfies with my family to engage with so my parents can see where I'm at on vacation or whatever it is. But now that I've developed a little bit of a public persona, I'm playing 2 roles. I'm now trying to let the listeners know what I'm up to, and it's a weird place to be.
No, that is the interesting thing. I think a lot of us are sort of straddling the fence between like, is this for friends and family, or is this my brand, basically? And we're all brands.
But if it was friends and family, you would keep it private.
Yes,
except, I mean, Jamie, like, I love reading yours, Jamie Brisick. People, if you don't follow, phenomenal Instagram account. I love reading your writing because it's you. I feel it's you having fun with writing. Which is very fun to watch the process of you having fun.
Well, thank you. What I will say, because I don't want to distract, because I know you were going over these like long, great headlines and subtitles, but what I love most, and this is what I love to do as writers, is like when you're in that space where the words are just sort of tumbling through your head and you're moving them around. That's like the best place to be in. So when I read your headlines and your pieces, I'm like, okay, Chaz is living in the groove, and what a great place to live. So yeah, I think that is a nice thing. And for my Instagram, I'm aware I do all these vulgar things and I'm ashamed of myself, and I know I'm kind of disgusted with myself half the time. But when I'm using it as an opportunity to just like play with my prose and try to stay really, really loose and almost intentionally embarrass myself a little bit, I just feel like I'm committed to writing, and that's going to make me a better writer. And putting my foot in my mouth is perfectly fine.
Yep.
And saying something that I don't even fully believe in, as long as it's not hurting people, is like a good exercise,
This is exactly why we podcast every week. We spend 90 minutes here just like vamping. We're like, we just got to exercise the muscle.
No, it's
doing the work.
Every 10 minutes, like 10 minutes out of the 90 are usable.
We're here doing the work, David Lee.
Reps.
Yep.
But that's kind of a non-story. The headline was representing something that happened. It's just not a story.
It's true. Clickbait.
We're saying that one's clickbait. All right. Story number 2. inspired by a World Surf League mantra, Nantucket activist introduces bylaw that would allow topless sunbathing for all genders. This is really antiquated. The quote from the article, this is really antiquated, and this is inequality. Some men have bigger boobs than I do.
Clickbait. Man, I'm 0 for 2. Yeah, I just stumbled across this story. Now, anytime that I read anything equality that's like not actual equality, or I mean, this is, I suppose, but funny equality, I automatically think WSL. And so I just tie any kind of equality thing that's silly periphery equality to the WSL.
So this woman is campaigning to be able to go topless on Nantucket.
Topless on Nantucket.
Because men are topless.
Because men are topless, and it's in the law that women can't be topless.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's all great and good, but any kind of, odd equality automatically in my mind is WSL, which is pretty rude.
Is it going to happen?
I can't imagine who would vote no. Can you? I mean, I've never been to Nantucket.
Yeah, people
don't know
who own
the kind
$10
of
million homes that are conservative traditionals on.
I mean,
Nantucket.
she's probably got a lawsuit all the way up to the Supreme Court on her hands, though.
Yeah.
So,
have you been to Nantucket?
never. Have you?
Yes. Have you been?
Never.
It is incredible. It is paradise.
Nice.
Ooh, you're gonna.
It's insane. It's a small island. Obviously, it was the whaling capital of the world, which makes for a fascinating history. But it's a small little island that gets epic surf, like great beach break, shore break kind of barrels all over the place.
Way to blow it out.
Deer running around on the island.
Wow.
These incredible homes. It's wildly expensive, of course. Super wealthy, but just such a cool little place.
I suppose you can't blow something out on the East Coast, which is Hawaii's. The further west you come, I think across the country, there's still pockets that haven't been blown out. I was thinking Nantucket was as blown out as it could ever be 200 years ago. It's fine.
The other problem is it's sharky.
I was going to say the sharks for sure.
Crazy sharks. Yeah. So I don't really want to surf it, but whatever.
Those sharks around Cape Cod, the environment doesn't seem like a sharky thing. And I know Jaws has a lot of those like quintessentially New England sort of beach scenes in the summer. But having been there a few times, it doesn't feel like it should be sharky the way that like if you're surfing north of Santa Cruz, it feels sharky. It's got the shark vibe, you know?
Totally. All right. So final segment for every episode.
0 for 2.
Yeah. Both clickbait.
Sweet. Good week.
Yep. It happens. So final segment for every show is called Barrel or Nah.
Yes, I remember this one.
Okay. So you guys have to chime in on whether this is barrel, meaning good, or don't do it. Mani-pedis for dudes.
Oh, you know what? You want me to?
Yeah. Lead us off. Oh my gosh. A shoe is coming off. Wow.
Yeah.
A beautiful pedicured foot.
Yeah, we're going to have to document this
Yeah.
one.
No, it happened.
It happened.
Yeah.
Does it happen regularly?
No, it's an entirely new thing.
Was this a niece or?
It was a niece thing and a mom thing.
Great.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was going to say full on barrel if it's kid or niece that's giving you a manicure or pedicure. 100% barrel.
Yeah.
If it is you making a decision alone, going to get a manicure and pedicure by yourself, adult man, no barrel.
No, definitely not for me. It was a mom and niece experience, and I went along with it.
It's like you have to go along with it. The man who says, I'm too much of a man to have my nails painted, well, then you're insecure about something.
Yep.
I'm on board with everything you said, except the nah part if you're going for self-care. What if your wife or significant other is like, just come with me. We need to catch up. This is our only window. I'm going. You have to come so we can catch up. And by the way, it's luxurious. It feels great. They give you a massage while they're doing it.
You say, tough.
I got the foot massage, which was fantastic.
Yeah. The kid gave you the foot massage?
She wasn't a kid.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
It was the
Jamie actually went.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
yeah. No, I went into the salon.
Okay.
There's a lot of chemical smells that I was not down with, quite frankly. It countered the whole thing of like, it's going to be this meditative, experience.
I don't know how the people in there, I mean, I guess you just get used to that sort of chemical scent, but walking by a mani-pedi spot, man, it's just like almost blows the hair right off your head.
I felt
Acetone.
that. I'm not going back anytime soon.
Yeah.
And I thought it was mustard colored, but the pedicurist pointed out that it's sunshine colored.
Perfect.
When this wears off, I don't know if I'll be going back for the pedicure.
Until then, though, you're going to be walking on sunshine.
Yes. Yeah.
Does sunshine have a color? Looks clear to me.
That was the color of Jamie's toes.
Apparently.
Yeah.
All right. So
No self-care.
Okay.
Men, too much self-care, as we've discussed already. Rub dirt in your nails. Tell your wife to do her own thing with her friend. Don't do that.
I've gone once or twice. But to your guys' point, I never went back.
Yeah.
I'm not drawn to go back.
Yeah.
I love a good massage. I will go get a massage. But yeah, not mani-pedi.
I haven't thrown no barrel on massage for men.
Really?
Unless it's a Thai massage in Thailand when you've been meditating in the temple and you really go get bent and twisted, like exercised.
Are you just against being touched?
I'm against men being soft. And I feel all those things soften you. I don't like no softness. Got to be hard. Crusty.
How do you calm down at the end of a stressful work week?
Drink alcohol.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Those Thai massages are almost like chiropractor.
Exactly. That's something different. The Thai massage is like
wow.
I went to Thailand. It was like $5 for an hour massage.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we got to the point where we're like, we'll just go 2 hours, I guess, because
Yeah.
that's an option too. Got tired of massages.
Yeah.
At the end of a 2 hour massage on day 4, you're like, I think I'm done. What a wonderful, that's like when people talk about being like barreled too much in Indonesia at the end of a trip.
Yeah.
Like I want to do a turn.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So what a wonderful place to be. You have a barrel or not?
I did. So barrel or nah, paddling out, if you can't do it, let's get it specifically.
get it.
Paddling out when you can't do it alone. Barrel or not, paddling out when you can't do it alone.
So this is kid's first trip to Hawaii, and the team man, Tommy Whitaker, is like, I'm going to take you out at sunset, use my board, but I need to take you out, that sort of a thing?
Kind of, or like you're on the beach alone or with a group and you see that it's, you know, like be me at Ocean Beach,
Okay.
San Francisco, right?
So
I'm
the
sitting
local,
I'm sitting there. Me and Jamie are there. Jamie says, I'm like, here I go. Out he goes. And I know, knowing full well, I won't be able to punch through. Do I follow or do I just say, can't do it?
I'm saying barrel.
To not paddle out?
No. Right. I'm saying that it's totally acceptable to be shown the ropes by somebody else.
Yeah.
You have to face your fears, and sometimes you need coaching.
Okay, so but this is specifically related back to the advice. So I think this person is saying there's a way to paddle out. Hey man, I was giving her the ropes.
So I'm saying yes, you always take the coaching, but not from your partner. If it's your partner paddling you out, no go.
I'm also going to say no barrel. I'm going to say barrel on paddling out if you can't make it. If you don't want to try to learn or you're not interested in that, you just want to bash your head against the white water, have at it. Have at it all day long if that's what you want to do. Let somebody enjoy that. Let somebody just push and get pulled and never achieve their end goal, right? Who cares? If they want to,
Yeah.
I'll ask.
I think, so that earlier story about surfing with Parmanor, that required him showing me the exact path.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long paddle.
Did you ask though, or did he just cough it up straight away? Did he say, okay,
He
look,
coughed it
David
up.
Lee,
Well,
what
the
we're
whole
going to do
mission
is,
was, the whole mission was him coughing it up, coaching me.
Well, Dave, but again, Dave Parmenter, Jamie Brisick,
True. Totally acceptable.
Kerr,
Yep.
always uninvited advice is perfect.
Yep.
I say barrel to helping someone get out in the lineup and showing them the ropes and all that kind of stuff. However, I think there'd be something really wonderful about a surf lesson that's purposely to sabotage the learner. What's the word? The student is best as best as possible. And I'd like to see a little bit more of that in the lineup. Actually,
I would love. I mean, this is what we should crowdfund: is a whole surf school that exists purely to sabotage the surfing experience.
How to ensure that they never come back.
Exactly.
Sterling Spencer's the man for the job. Actually, Jamie at Malibu is the man for the job.
Yeah.
That's where it's needed more than anywhere.
I know.
Out of control.
And you're trusted.
Yeah.
You have integrity.
Yes.
Which we can
Integrity.
besmirch.
Yeah. Besmirch is a good word.
Thanks. Did I use it appropriately?
No, you used it perfectly.
Excellent. Speaking of Malibu, I know just because of the circle you run in, are you friends with Jonah Hill? How involved are you in getting him involved in surfing?
I met Jonah recently in Hawaii, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic. We had such a good conversation.
Good.
Yeah.
Had Jonah read any of your work?
I don't believe so.
Was Jonah aware of Jamie Brisick as a surf?
No, I don't think so.
See, that's what upsets me.
I think
She
I
do
was
his homework.
I was a dude from LA, but we immediately started talking about the value systems in Los Angeles critically,
Yep.
which is something I've always felt. But, you know, for a guy like me, I feel that way, but I often wonder if this is just like my sour grapes and I'm just justifying, rationalizing the fact that I don't have a house on the beach in the Malibu colony.
Yeah.
Jonah does have a house across the street from the beach in the Malibu colony, but he's very critical of that value system as well. And that I thought was wonderful. I thought that this is real. This is great.
And or hypocritical.
Yeah.
It's funny that you both live in Malibu and you'd have to go to Hawaii to meet each other.
I know.
And he surfs Malibu too.
Yep. Yep.
Funny. Final barrel or nah? Aloha shirts.
Ironically or earnestly?
Either. Do you own them? Do you own them? Do you wear them?
No, I don't own them. In fact, I have one particular shirt that has the shape and fit of an Aloha shirt, although not the print. And I'm not so crazy about it. And I find myself passing it as I go through my shirts in my closet. I'm not a huge fan. I don't know.
I'm going to say definitely nah on ironic. Wearing for over a certain age, and that age being 6, wearing anything ironically is not cool. I want to say the history of the Aloha shirt is epic and what it means, and historically seeing pictures like of it, but I've so rarely, like watching it in the booth, seeing those guys, all 3 of them in their Aloha shirts, makes me think maybe just burn this whole thing down.
I so agree with that. But I will say, you just reminded me, when you see locals in Hawaii and there's, say, a wedding or some sort of festival, and that's the idea of like, I'm dressing up the way, say, in Los Angeles, people might wear a suit.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's true.
That is so
Great
cool.
call.
That's what it should be. That's so if you are a native Hawaiian, Aloha shirt is like, they should take it back. Just like I can't walk around the street with a headdress on, an Indian headdress. I would get slaughtered.
Yeah. There's like an appropriation thing.
Precisely. Hawaiian should take back the Hawaiian shirt, even though it was started, I do believe, by, wasn't it Joyce Hoffman or Hoffman's, I think some white dude started the whole Aloha shirt, but they should reappropriate it. And
Flippy.
Yeah, Flippy Hoffman.
Yeah.
They should take it and keep it. No white man allowed an Aloha shirt.
You guys have summed it up perfectly.
What do you think?
Great
What's
points.
your take? Barrel or not? Barrel or nigh? Is it not or nigh?
It's NAH. So not for me. You know what I mean? Like too flamboyant for me. So I don't wear them. But it's just funny how so much of like what is stereotypical surf look, surfers don't actually wear. Like actual surfers that because like, you know, my extended family, Lauren's family, they all know me as the surfer. I look less like a surfer than my dad does, you know, and I've never worn a puka shell necklace.
Yep.
You know, I guess I do wear flip-flops.
Your dad wears puka shells?
No, he doesn't. but he would he'd wear an Aloha print shirt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just interesting that those things have kind of like jumped the shark. The stereotype doesn't fit the core culture anymore.
Yep.
But I think we see enough posers, for lack of a better word, who, you know, want to look surfish.
Yeah.
And if you're like a real surfer, I guess, or you come from the inside of that world, it's sort of almost like I don't want all these little accoutrements that out me as a surfer, or what have you.
But I think the point that I didn't think of prior was, you're right, dressing up in Hawaii calls for it.
Except for, I'm going to say only if you're a native Hawaiian. Dressing up as a white man in Hawaii doesn't, like if you are having a destination wedding on Kauai and everybody's wearing Aloha shirts, lame-o.
Yes. But Howley, who went to Punahou, who grew up there,
that's okay.
Definitely can wear it.
That's okay.
Ross Williams gets a pass.
Yeah. Ross gets a pass. You need to have, like, I think we could probably put a number, like you need to have 25 years on the islands, I think, and Punahou.
Yep.
In the, or whatever, adjacent school. Sunset Elementary counts.
Yep.
Maybe not.
Yep.
You might have to go to high school. You might have had to have gone to high school in Hawaii in order to wear a Hawaiian shirt. I think that's fair enough.
Sunset Elementary counts because means that you were there longer than if you just went to high school there.
No, because if you, I mean, like if Sunset Elementary plus high school, but if you were there, like, my folks lived in Hawaii till I was in 3rd grade, and then we moved back to the mainland. No Hawaiian shirt for you.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
One last shameless plug of my Wall Street Journal essay.
Yes.
I spoke to Alexandra Florence, Mom John.
Yes.
And I was asking her about the gentrification and the kind of, the North Shore changing. And she said, she gave me this great quote, which did not make it in the piece, which is, my kids walk to school barefoot every day at Sunset Elementary. Now there's a line of Teslas, Mercedes, and Range Rovers picking up their kids at that school.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yep.
That is rough.
Barefoot school is cool. I really love the idea of going to school barefoot when you're young.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a straight up barrel.
My grandfather, who was born in Kauai, did not own a pair of shoes until he graduated high school.
Wow.
And even then, the teacher had to loan them to him so he could walk across the stage to get the diploma.
Jeez, that is so cool.
Yeah, I agree. That's the way to live.
Yep.
Man, we've done things wrong.
So bad.
This guy lives in L.A.
Now we're getting
Even
pedicures,
worse.
for God's sake. I mean, the pedicure is the antithesis of barefoot walking.
It truly is. It truly is. Well, this has been a wonderful 2-hour-long show.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
You guys are a blast. This is so much fun. Thank you.
You're welcome
Thanks
anytime.
for inviting me.
Anytime you want to do
I want
the
to come
drive.
back down and drink coffee with you guys and
yeah.
hang.
We'll do it after 10 so you can go swimming first.
Cool.
Yep.
We owe a thanks to Album Surfboards for hosting us, albumsurf.com. And then, of course, athleticgreens.com/surf.
How are the women doing right now?
It is heat number 4. Listen to this. Brissa Hennessy is winning with a 13.04 score. Sally has a 13-point score. So they're getting 7s
Solid
out
scores.
there. Yeah,
Good.
they're getting 7s.
Like to hear it.
Every time I've looked up, I've seen somebody doing a big open face carve.
Love to hear it.
So, and the waves are proper. All right, Chaz, until next week.
Get barreled.
Amy.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Jamie.
you guys. That was so much fun.